하지 마. 내가 안 된다 했잖아.
Welcome everyone to another Monkey King show. Today we're going to be interviewing, conversation, talking, discussion, everything else under the sun with John BUA of John's Long Box. And without further ado, I'd like to give the floor to John to talk to about, introduce himself, and then we'll get into it as usual. Catch you later.
Well, first, thanks for having me on. Oh, geez, I'm big. My name is John. I have a YouTube channel called John's Long Box. I talk about comics, comic book stuff, sometimes board games. Just recently, we started doing like theology and other things like that. But it started as during the lockdown. Everybody was trapped in their houses, and I like to talk with people. I like comic books, so I started up a YouTube channel, and for a year I talked to nobody, and then I started having guests on, and it was fun. And then I got from talking with other people, I started making comics, and I have one comic out already called Heroic Tales, issue number 1, 2 complete stories. The Patriarch is one story, and then Lucius Kane, who goes by the name of the origin of a supervillain. And then I have issue number 2 that's at the printers right now. So issue number 2 continues the story of the Patriarch and then introduces Mary Sue, the perfect girl. She is perfect in the eyes of her grandmother, and she starts to learn that with infinite power comes infinite responsibility. And I believe in crowdfunding with this irregular schedule that we have, that it's best that we do complete stories. So when you buy my comics, you're going to get 2 complete stories per comic, $10 an issue, $5 a story. It's the best deal in crowdfunding, and they actually come out. You know, when I say they come out. So I've got a bunch of other artists working with me. Once they saw my first comic and they knew that I was, you know, a real deal, people started reaching out. Let's work together. Let's work together. So I got like 7 stories in the works, but I feel like one crowdfund at a time is the best thing to do. So that's the what do they call it? The top of funnel problem. So one crowdfund at a time. Ideally, I'd like to get 3 comics a year out. You know, that's my goal. If I could do more, great. That's pretty much everything. I'm just a longtime comic book collector. I started collecting comics in 1974. I have a collection behind me. There's a whole room full of comics. That's 58,000 comics the last time I took an inventory. You know, mostly Marvel and DC, lots of other independents. That's it. What else do you want to know? I got nothing else to say about myself. It's always difficult to just justify your existence, John.
That's basically it, isn't it? Like the older you get, you're like, what else did I do? What was it?
You go. I remember back in college, I met a girlfriend's father for the first time. And he just laughed at me and said, "Give him your resume, John." You know, and I just had to justify my existence. Yeah, that's.
Well, I think the older you get, right, you forget the things you've done. Like I'm 52, so I left home when I was 16 and a half and went straight into looking, work. And actually, first I went and hung around with people and friends and got drunk every weekend.
Yeah,
skateboarded everywhere for about maybe two months or so, or 3 months, and then found a job through an uncle, and then got stuck, and then realized that my body wasn't made for that, that 8 o'clock job, right? That 8-hour job. And then later you realize that, well, without a job, you're going to be relying on other people for income, and soon your bills need to be paid.
Yeah.
And then
get real tired of buying
gear.
Yeah. Real quick.
And then straight out of school, you kind of like do something like, I took a factory job, and I was there for 3 years after saying on the first day I would never go back. It was it was an oven, John. It was an oven, right? So there was two huge man-sized ovens that you could walk into and you could pull out, and all the heat hits you, and you're instantly drenched as soon as you walk away, and all the sweat. And then after 8 hours of that, I said I begged myself, said never going to go back. But 3 years later, you're drenched, and you're like, this is all you got because you don't have the education to move higher up.
Well, right out of high school, I worked supermarkets. I did all the stuff that American kids do. I assume it's basically the same in New Zealand. And then I went to college.
Yeah.
But I went to college to drink and party with friends. It was of high school. And so
Yeah.
I quickly I said, I'm not even going to, it's like, I guess I dropped out because I just didn't pay for the next semester. I was paying for it on my own. And I said, this is just a waste of money. And I was delivering pizza while I was doing that.
Okay.
So the pizza guys were just like, one of the partners is leaving. You want his share of the business? So for the next 3 years, so from like 18 to 22, I think I had 15% of the pizzeria. And
wow.
I was like, all right, I'm a pizza guy. I'm not going to go to college. And it was fun, but like, man, 18-hour days, talk about hot, stand next to a pizza oven in August in New York,
Yeah.
It was a lot of responsibility. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I was one of the kids, but I was also one of the bosses. So I had to fire one of my friends who was the delivery guy who was always late. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's amazing how you become Mr. Responsibility. And then the pizzeria,
yeah.
It did. When I was 22, I didn't realize that the major partner, his wife, was taking all the money, and after lunch and after dinner, she would show up, beautiful blonde, would come and take all the money.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, she's putting it in the bank. I didn't realize she was putting it up her nose.
Wow.
And it was like a stereotypical New York, like Rocco. And I can't remember the other guy's name. I just remember Rocco and his brother came in, and they were like, "Where's the money?" And I said, "Oh, that's funny." And they like threatened me. I'm like, "Oh, this is so cool." So I was like, "Oh, okay." I said, "I got to go stir the sauce." And I went in the back room, and we had a false tile, and I removed the false tile. There was a big stack of money, and I just took it, left. I was thinking I was going to protect the day's stash, but when I came back, it was gone. Place was boarded up. They cleaned out everything, and I never saw the owner again. I'm like, man, I guess I got my last paycheck. But that was that. So then I was like, I'm going to college. So I went back to college. I took it seriously this time. I actually got I think I graduated with like a 3.8. I went out to, but I knew I had to get away from people. So I moved out to Albuquerque, where I didn't know anybody, I just had to start all over again. I didn't know anybody, and I was like 24 when I started. I think, I turned 25 my first semester. So I was like the old man in college living in the dorms, it was like old school, but I took it seriously.
Yeah.
And that was it. And then I whatever. I wanted to be a college professor. I took Roman and Greek history.
Yeah.
And then like my friend said, you going to work at the Roman and Greek factory? I wanted to become a college professor, but man, the politics of becoming a college professor is insane, and I was too young and brash. So now I'm a construction worker, I'm looking forward to retirement in a couple of years. And my only regret is I should have became a construction worker right out of high school,
Right.
Yeah. Because
your skill level would have gone up every time, every month,
the skill level is one thing. Like after 10 years, you've done it all. It's mostly repetition. But like what I'm talking about is instead of getting the 40-year pension, I'm going to get the 30-year pension because I lost 10 years, doing other things, and that's a big deal. So there you go. That's my story. That's my work history.
So. How did you get into collecting comics? Like you said about 74, I'm like about 1 year old in 74.
Okay, well, I again, you're in New Zealand, and I just imagine New Zealand is like very similar to the United States, but you guys.
Well, I mean, I came over here in about when I was 7 years old. So I in 1980 from Fiji, right? So in Fiji we don't have things like comics.
Oh, okay.
Way back in the 70s or 80s, and the only comics I ever heard of in Fiji was a Goofy Duck Disney thing that my friend's dad was selling in his store, which was pretty different to any stores anywhere else because it had everything like groceries. It had it's like one of those ones where you bags of seed, right, for the farms. And then you also have fertilizer, but you also have ice cream and all that. So it's like one of those. It's like one of those Wild West movie. General stores.
Yeah, like if you go to rural America, or at least New York, go upstate New York, where there's. I mean, it's funny. You go upstate New York, and it's more hick country than people think, because New York is like a triangle. So at the bottom of the triangle, that's the city. You know what I mean? And then you got this weird appendage, Long Island, where I live. It's not the city, but it's not the country. But you go upstate, it's farms, it's hillbillies, it's guys with tractors, and
the hardworking folk.
They got all of those general stores, like you said. Like you go up there. But when I was a kid back in the 70s in New York, comics were everywhere. Everybody read comics. Like you just had them. And I have 2 older brothers, 2 older sisters. So there was always comics in my house. Archie's, Justice Leagues, and whatever. And, so I was always looking, but I couldn't read them at first. I mean, I was a little kid. I couldn't read. And I was in 3rd grade. So what's that? 3rd grade is 8 years old. Third grade is 8 years old. You add 5. Okay. So I'm 8 years old, and I could barely read. Like in New York, they had like social promotion. I fully admit, I look back at my behavior, and I was probably like autistic or ADHD or whatever, something that they would have diagnosed today and put me on medicine. Thank God it was the 70s. I just got beat by my head, and stop behaving like that. So they just, whatever. I faked it a lot. So in 3rd grade, I made friends with kids that were really into comics. Now, like I said, we always had comics.
Yeah.
But now these kids were into it. Like they knew everything about it. They were talking about plot lines and stuff like that. So I started to realize, this is a problem. I don't really get this stuff. Like I would look at the pictures and I would draw the pictures. So I really made a concerted effort to read. So from 3rd grade, at the beginning of 3rd grade, I tell the story a million times. I still think it's absolutely true. But my partner was this kid, Jordan. We shared a reading book because it was a Catholic school. So we had like 15 books for 30 students. So me and Jordan were sharing a book, and Jordan was the kid who, no exaggeration, in 3rd grade, couldn't pull his pants up after going to the bathroom. So he would go into the bathroom and come back and yell, "Help me!" And the teacher would have to. So I knew there was something wrong. This is my partner. You know what I mean? Yeah. But by the end of the year, after reading comics and wanting to read comics, I was on the top reading group. And then by the end of the year, my partner was Marianne. And Marianne, we would call her a Karen today. You know that expression. She was the one that would stand at the front and write the kids' names down who were talking. Had to go to the
teacher's pet, right? Yeah.
So
that's what we used to call them, teacher's pet.
Yeah, teacher's pet, yeah. So that, and I owe it all to comics, because I used to say to kids, like the kids would read comic books, and I'd be like, "Let's go play." Like, we're reading comic books. To me, I was like, let's sit around and do math. Like, math is something you do in school. Reading is something you do in school. The concept of reading for pleasure, wasn't there until my friends basically shamed me. It was like positive peer pressure. Like, what do you mean you don't know? This guy's name is Cyclops. Well, what's a Cyclops? From Greek mythology. What's Greek mythology? Then after that, by 5th grade, Dr. Anderson, the school psychologist, she took me down to the office, and she started quizzing me about all these books that I was reading. And I remember thinking I'm in trouble, and because I used to take index cards, and I used to read Greek mythology, and I'd put them all in chronological order. Because I told you, I think I had like ADHD or something, or autism.
Well, kid. My sister reckons that if I was, if they used the classification back then for me as well, I'll be under that as well, like a mild.
If these
autism.
diagnoses existed, yeah, who knows?
Yeah.
So she was she found one of my index cards that I must have dropped someplace. So she was short, and I'm like, so I remember saying, like, am I in trouble? And I was this close to just never reading again. And I'm so stubborn, I never would have, you know. And she's like, oh no. Like, I look back at it now, and she was just like, you know, what is with this kid? You know, does he understand these books? Because I got this copy of Le Morte Arthur by Thomas Mallory, you know, and I'm in 5th grade, and every free, like, I would finish all my work so I could get back, and I was writing all these index cards this night.
Yeah.
He was the knight of renown, and he was famous for this, and you know what I mean? Cataloging.
That's pretty, I mean, that's, what is it, like 5th grade, 10 years old? That's pretty intense for, you know, a 10-year-old to be reading.
Well, that's why
heavy book.
That's why the school counselor took me in, but I thought I was in trouble or something. You know what I mean? Like, that's the way kids are. And if she would, I know me, I know how stubborn I am. If she had told me that, like, this is a bad thing or something, I would have been like, all right, you know, because I also didn't want to get in trouble. But I don't know whatever became of that meeting. I don't know what she wrote down. I don't know what she said. But
well, at that time, like, for me, because I just moved into New Zealand, right, at 7 years old, and my neighbor, you're talking about like how people were peer pressuring you and stuff. My neighbor across the road, whose name is Regan and was Regan Bell at that time, just directly straight across from me, young Maori guy. His parents owned a pet store in town, which was just about 200 meters up the road from us in our local rural area, and he would spend all his pocket money on a comic book series called 2000 AD.
Yeah,
yeah. So I know that most Americans don't understand what this person means to us, colonials, right? This is probably the greatest thing for us Kiwis, growing up at 7 years old, 8 years old, and seeing stuff like that, while the Americans are looking at Hulk and Wonder Woman, we're looking at fascism. A judge who controls his people with an iron fist, and that's the law.
I talk about this a lot in Britain. Their main comic book character, like, who was it? Rick Veitch, Alan Moore. I forget one of these British, but he made
Colors of Square and
no. I'm just talking about this story. Yeah, Judge Dredd was Robert Brian Ball, but I'm saying there was a writer who said that comic books are like the zeitgeist of the culture where they come out of, and you look at Judge Dredd. He's this fascist, boot stomper. You know what I mean? He's just it's kind of them joking on America, but look at Britain right now. You say the wrong thing. You pray. Britain is always flirting with fascism. They still have the king. In which I consider so bizarre. But America was formed by guys who fled all that stuff. Either they were criminals. Australians are proud of the fact that they were a prison colony. We forget that America was a prison colony too. New Zealand was also a prison colony because Britain was fascist, and they were always rounding people up. And half of the population of Ireland came to America as slaves. You know what I mean? They were in debtor's prison and thrown in America as indentured servants or criminals or whatever. But anyway, America, we came up with this idea of the rugged individual, the cowboy. Like the cowboy was the original cowboy stories. And even before that, I don't know if you know, like James Fenimore Cooper, he got famous writing like Deer Slayer. And Deer Slayer would go out into the wilderness where there was just Indians. It was any humans that Deer Slayer met were hostile to him. Any animals that Deer Slayer. So this guy had to, load the musket, and kill people. And so he's the American Tarzan, and that's the stories that we like. So we went from these frontiersmen to cowboys who were defending their farm from squatters and the government and revenuers and stuff like that. There's always stories of the government coming in to tax these people and their standoffs. It literally happens in real life every couple of years, and then it's just a step to superheroes. Whereas Britain's hero is the state.
Yeah,
Judge Dredd.
yeah. Well, I think for us, like, I mean, myself, I think it was only just myself and Regan that in that entire town, right, of like about 3,000 people or whatever, of kids, what have you, we're the only two that I know of that was reading 2000 AD and Judge Dredd, right? I don't remember anybody else ever talking to anybody in my primary school age ever having read that. It was just me and Regan, whose mum just passed away recently, who was a great woman. And so we would build our huts like we were the ABC warriors, right? The robots, if you guys know anything about 2000 AD, the robots are the ABC warriors.
Okay.
And it's been a long time since I've read that series, but one of the longest running stories is the ABC Warriors and Rogue Trooper, Judge Death, and so on. But like we were the ABC Warriors, the two guys. There's just me and him. Had our own little tree hut. We run around with our little little wooden guns and stuff. And that's how you grow up imagining and coming up with ideas and story plots and stuff. If this happens and this happens, and you shoot me down, and then I'll get up. So so all the colonials of us, we grew up on that sort of stuff. Whereas like you said, like the US, you've got growing up on superheroes with Superman, like 1940s, whatever, 1935, wasn't it? And so on.
I think 37, 38 Superman came out. I'm not 100% sure.
And that sort of like became your guys' zeitgeist. And do you think growing up reading that the superhero comics might have given you guys an ideal of what life should have been as children, or what you expect from grown-ups? Because I know from us, 2080 taught me to question everything. Right? It was like, don't just take everything the establishment says as truth.
Well, I mean, we become everything we read. We become everything we absorb. I hate this word. All the content we consume. I hate that expression. But look at it. When I grew up, I was watching all the movies that were made in the 40s, 50s, 60s. I'm talking about the 70s, and it was all, we fought World War I. We were the good guys. And then Superman doing right, and the Justice League cartoons, doing the right thing, and and then in the 70s, we started emerging like the urban vigilante. We'd have Death Wish with Charles Bronson and Clint Eastwood, So we were always told like the government was good guys. The government was good. They had the best interest. And then slowly, don't trust anybody. You're on your own. And then I don't know if like Bernie Getz, and I forget if that was the late 70s or early 80s. Like he was mugged in the subway, and he was like a shrimpy guy who got tired of the crime in the subway, and he literally got mugged by three, they say kids, but with sharpened screwdrivers, and he pulled out a gun and he shot one in the back, and he, it was like the biggest freaking deal, and it tore the city apart. Like half the city was like, no, he's a hero. Half the people like, this guy's a maniac and whatever. But like the whole time this was going on, I would always think, what would Batman do? Yeah, what would like Batman, if he was there, he would have done this. So yeah, we got programmed in a good way, and now I'll say somewhere maybe in the 90s or so, all the movies are anti-American, anti-family, anti-white, anti-Christian, and now we got a whole generation of people just like it's all bad. If Batman's a fascist, he would do more good if he just gave all his money away and it's like
the anti-capitalism, right? That idea of like it'll
bad guy.
Yeah, all these things will be created on their own little self. It'll just fantastically appear in the world, and we'll enjoy it, right? This will be created by nobody, but it will just suddenly appear.
All of these people that like raping and murdering, if you just all of a sudden gave them money, they would be good people.
Yeah. And then they want more money, and then they want more money, and then more money.
Months, and then the But
yeah, the illusion of the socialist mindset is crazy. I can't understand that people haven't looked at history enough to know. Like when I was like back in, this is about 20 years ago when I was doing my film study for my degree, and I was sitting in a church, down south, like at the bottom of New Zealand, which is called Invercargill, on a Sunday, and it's snowing outside, and this lady was talking to us about what happened during Ceausescu, and that they had all these babies during socialism, right, during Ceausescu dictatorship, that they had basically gotten the children of the dissidents, the artists, those they didn't agree with. They've killed their parents off, taken them away, right? Now the babies are left, and they're left at orphans, and so because they don't have enough people to take care of, they probably have one matron and 2-3 workers, and they'd have their feet tied to the court so they wouldn't, like the baby court, right, COT, so they wouldn't fall out, and so they'll tie a piece of cotton to their legs, and in their just wearing their nappies in Romania, and they'll tie that to the metal bars, so the kids, they would be on their own, so they wouldn't suddenly fall out, if they're screaming, yelling, and I was like, so this is the picture of socialism everybody wants, where anybody that disagrees with you gets killed or taken away, jailed, and their children are left in their own muck and uncared for, unlooked after. And I was sitting there going, I need to study this because this is something I don't know.
I didn't even know that was Romania.
That was Romania, and that's where the incredible, that's the history of my superhero, right? My female superhero, orphan child, Incredible comes from, because that's I was sitting there going, I need to know more, and then years later, right, about probably 4 years later, when I decided to do a comic book, I used that as like a background to the story, because then set it into some sort of realism. But and also the other thing was that while I was studying that, I learned about what happened under Stalin in in Russia, right, after World War II, and the things they had to do to themselves to take themselves out of this world because of how horrendous those concentration camps were for those people, women and men, right? And I think a lot of people, their ignorance and their laziness doesn't let them look at what actual real socialism and Marxism and communism is, because it's all about sharing things. No, it's about all the things shared just by the elite, while everybody else below them suffers.
It's communism. Everything belongs to everything. Because these kids are out of their mind. They're like, oh, when communism comes here, I'm going to paint on the beach. Well, so am I.
Yeah, while posting on $1,000 phone, right, or $500 phone,
right,
or whatever have you. And how wonderful it would be. And it's like communism don't create this sort of stuff.
I said, well, I'm a construction worker. I wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning and I'm in a mud pit in the rain, whatever, doing this stuff. I said, I would rather sit on the beach and write poetry. Could I do that? And then the person I'm arguing with goes, yeah, it's communism. Okay, good. Why would any construction worker go to work if, I said, am I going to get a house? Am I going to get food? Good. We're all going to sit on the beach. And he's like, no, some people are going to want it. I said, you're out of your mind if you think any construction worker is going to want to do what I do with that, because I get paid pretty well. I have a good, I'm not complaining about my job. My job is hard, but we're, compensated for the hard work. But why would I do it without the compensation? No, but I go, do you want to do it? Do you want to dig the coal? Do you want to smelt the iron? Do you want? And I said, and why would anybody be a doctor? Because you have to go to school for 30 years. You're 30 years old. All your buddies are partying and going to orgies and taking drugs or whatever under your vision of communism. Why? Yeah. Because some people would want to. No, every doctor I've ever spoke to said they wanted the prestige and they wanted the money. Yeah, not one of them ever to help anybody. So
you get paid well because put away 6 years of your
deserve it.
life.
You're a good doctor,
Yeah.
yeah, because of all the skill it takes to become a doctor.
Yeah.
All the
When I
you lost.
when I back in, I think it was 94, when I had an accident with my wrist, and I ended up like slicing off my tendons.
Oh God.
So I had a specialist who only specializes in wrist injuries, right? Cutting up together with not cutting up, like slicing together, operating on tendons alone, who saved my hand, right?
Right.
And so, like, imagine under socialism, that guy wanted to like have to go farm now, right? Because he's got to go farm, even though he should be a doctor,
Well, that's just
because
it.
he's got intelligence, right?
These kids think, oh, everything is shared, everything. But they're so stupid. They think that they still have individual choice. They think that they have individual choice under collectivism. And it's like, no, you don't get to choose what you do. When there's communism, the people, you're a person, but the people tell you what to do. And the people don't care that you're really good with crayons. Right now, we need farmers. So they're the useful idiots. I mean, I'm sure in your chat and my chat, we're talking to the converted over here. We already know.
Yeah. The thing is, I think it's their ignorance to learn history, right? And I think that's what I found was like whenever I have discussions like this with people, and I don't talk to people a lot anymore because it's just kicking against the wall, really, because a lot of them don't understand or don't want to understand because ignorance is bliss. It's like, okay, so did you know under communism, especially under Stalin, the woman had actually boiled up rotten fish bones and ate them so they could die. That's how horrendous it was. Like, did you know that? But that was an artist, right? There was an artist who could have, who was taken from their family because they probably did some cartoon, about, hey, how communism is bad and how the leaders led now, that's how it's going to live. They don't ever want to see the reality of what it actually is. They have the blasé of everybody's going to live on a beautiful farm, enjoying paradise. Yet when you look at
a partner years ago, his name was Boris, and he was from Moscow, and he never spoke, and he wasn't very trustful of people. And I would talk to him, and he would politely. And I worked with him long enough, and I think I'm pleasant enough. I got him to like me, and we just started talking. And then he would go off. We would have coffee and lunch, and he would go off by himself. He was a very, very reclusive guy.
Yeah.
And finally, he just started. Everybody was talking about communism. It was during the Hillary Clinton Trump.
So 2016.
Yeah, 2016. Yeah. So everybody's talking about that, and he just said, with his Russian accent, "You want to know about communism?" And he gave this speech, and I'll never forget it. He grew up in Moscow, and he joined the Navy because there was nothing else to do, and he loved the sea. And he's like, I just want to work on a boat. He goes, I want to work on a boat. So he applied for a job. Like, you don't just and they told him, no, you're Jewish. We're not letting you have any authority. You're not going to be a captain or anything. Jews don't get any responsibility. You teach other people how to drive. So for his career, he was a driving instructor. Now he's 21 years old. He's a driving instructor. He goes, John, I'm not going to lie. He goes, it was great. He goes, because it was a 2-year waiting list to take this test. And if you failed, you didn't get your license, and you would wait another 2 years. He goes, so people would bribe me. He goes, people would show up with money, with food, with this. He goes, their daughters. He goes, a girl would show up. This is my drive. And forgive me for being rude, but this is what he said. He would say, she's still a virgin, so don't use that one. And that's what I would do. He goes, I was 22 years old. This is the way the world works. He goes,
so hold on, John. Do you know right now that is happening in China?
Right.
To the poor Chinese with Africans.
Yeah. So this is what he's telling me.
The poor Chinese girls right now in China are like from the poor rural areas are used as barter in
Right.
payment for the elite Africans from Africa, the black Africans who are getting them pregnant. And then those young girls from their villages are seen as dirty people, right?
Right.
Because of this. But the state is making this happen to them,
Right.
those young girls.
So he goes, I was a stupid kid and I was all horny, and he goes,
Yeah.
and I would come up, he goes, and I got a car because it was part of my job. The government gave me a car. He goes, so I had a car, I had it. He goes, every day, like, oh, I got 4 girls coming. He goes, that means I would have sex 4 times, and the fathers would say it because that's just the way the world worked under communism. He goes, and then one guy, he worked in a bakery, and he offered me an ice cream cake. He goes, and I started crying, and I passed the guy. He goes, and I went home, and he says he remembers when he was 14 years old. So now he's back in time. He's 14 years old, and it's his birthday, and his mother says, "What do you want for your birthday?" And he said, "I heard that there's ice cream cakes." Like, he didn't even know they existed. He goes, "I would really like an ice cream cake." He goes, and he said, my parents looked at each other. He goes, the next day for my birthday, I had an ice cream cake. Because my father wouldn't touch the ice cream cake. My mother wouldn't touch the ice cream cake. He goes, but my brothers and sisters, we ate the ice cream cake. It was the best day of my life. He goes, and now, what did my mom have to do to get that ice cream cake? And everybody's looking, and he goes, communism turns your mother into a whore. It turns your sister into a whore. He goes, that's what communism is. He goes, and then he goes, within 6 months of that incident, my mother got cancer, and the party told me she's a Jew. She's just going to die. He goes, so I had to apply. He goes, I did all the paperwork. He goes, they took all the money out of my bank account, and they let me leave with my sick mother to the United States with $200 in my bank account. That was it. He goes, I was only allowed to take $200 out of my life savings, my life work. He goes, we put my mom in a free clinic. I had to sign. He got sponsorship. He goes, he got a job. He goes, they cured my mother. She's still alive. But he goes, I had my children in America. He goes, any of you think anything good about communism? He goes, you're insane. He goes, until this day, I've never had ice cream cake. And I still think of Boris. He goes, my son's a lawyer. My other son's a doctor. He goes, I'm a construction worker. He goes, America is the greatest country in the world. Except for New Zealand, because got to be.
Well, let me tell you about Fiji, right? So Fiji, in 1885, the Indians from India were brought in as new laborers. Now, some of them were like told it's just over the sea, it's just over there, mate. So some of them believe that. A lot of them died on the way there, and so. But then those who arrived went there as well for a future for their children, for their next generation and so on. So one thing that a lot of people don't know, that majority of the people that went to Fiji, because Fiji isn't like a place where Indians are from originally, right? They're not indigenous to that. It's Fijians indigenous to that. So but we all grew up thinking that Fiji was our homeland, and that's just where we are from, right? As children. So we didn't think otherwise that, hey, India is where our forebears came from. So in 1885, when, after the British abolished slavery, right, the slave trade, and paid billions of dollars for the abolition of that, which people don't want to give credit to Britain for that because they're still friggin' paying that.
Yeah, right. White people ended slavery, and we're blamed for it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, oh yeah. So when what happened was a lot of the lowest caste, and this still exists in India, the lowest caste actually said, yes, I don't want to live like a slave in India to the next level up, right? Because it's a bit like communism as well, but it's a very Indian form of communism. So all these poor people jumped on the boat and ran away to Fiji in the hopes that their future generations would have a better life. So one thing that you know, I'm sure that a lot of Indians understand is that we don't take shit for granted because of that, because we know our forebears sacrificed everything for us to take us away from being, you know, the lowest of the low caste, the dirt Dalek. You know, there's another one that I'm part of, which I can't remember, but very low, right? You're like the you know, the lowest of the low human beings in
Untouchable,
India.
right?
Yeah, and so there's so many others in that basically took off to Fiji and they became farmers, and then after years, like about 5-10 years of doing their thing, um, you know, being tasked under the agreement was like a 5-year agreement to which the Indians call girmit, because you can't really pronounce agreement in Indian in those days, right? So it's the girmit, so GIRMIT, girmit. So you had a 5-year contract to work on the farm. So it was like 5 till 9 every day, 5 till 9 every day, right? And then, so that was under the sun all day long, every day for 5 years, almost like 6-7 days a week, depending. And you get more added on if you were sick. So if you got sick for a day, you couldn't show up. Okay, that's another day added to you. So sometimes that 5 years ended up being 7 years. So it was hell on earth. And so, but they did it. And so, if none of us Indians would go, if we only were in India, right? It would have been so much easier. And I'm like, no, our forebears went through hell to give us a better life. And now we get to live in a society where we can be as free as possible in the West, because we don't live under the rule of the caste system in India, which says that this is where you were born.
With two men in our 50s with toys behind us talking about comic books.
Yeah,
because our ancestors, my Italian grandparents, they fled Mussolini. My Irish, they were, fighting in the IRA and everything like that, and had no choice but to leave Northern Ireland and everything because of the troubles. But and then we come to America, and then what do? We trash it. You're not oppressed.
Yeah.
You're only oppressed by your own ideology in America, and I assume New Zealand. Although New Zealand,
there is like the leftist uprising that happens with idiocy everywhere else right now. Like, the thing is this: when you do not have hardships, you become lazy.
Yep.
And you think that because it's not hard anymore, then you can fight for whatever. It's like, well, you forget that your family, your forebears fought hard so that you could be living a lazy life.
I do think that it's an evolutionary trait. I think that we as humans were evolved. I mean, we forget that we only know 9,000 years of human history, and humanity, whether you believe in evolution or not, we all could agree that humans have been on the earth for millions of years. Yeah, we don't know most of it, and most of that time was survival. We all have that college professor that talks about the noble savage. There never was the noble savage.
No,
the modern theories are that the average human up until the 1700s had PTSD from the hardships. We are hardwired to deal with problem solving. Yeah. And some people they go to a man, and a lot of women, they go to a man for protection and submit. A lot of men will group together to form clans, and survival. That whether you associate with the tribe, the clan, the nation, the race, the religion, whatever. These are all survival mechanisms. Now in the United States, you could literally get the government to pay for your soda, sit at home and play video games all day, go to the dispensary and smoke pot.
Yeah,
and you have no challenges in life. And I think this is our evolution is kicking in. Create drama, create problems. We need to solve problems, and that's why like 40-year-old women who just like, I'm just bored, and then they get divorced. Or they're attracted to trouble. Well, guys do it too. Guys do it too. They go after girls or whatever. But like, we are problem solvers. We need to be solving. My life was going pretty good, so then I started making comic books, and I got my problem solving
Well,
evolutionary met.
I think it's that it's idle hands, right? The moment you become you have nothing to do unless you get into some sort of hobby, some sort of creativity, or some sort of group club or community works. You basically become what is a nosy person, right? You become a gossiper. You create conflict
Yeah,
to.
you seek out drama and conflict and gossip. Yes,
That's
I
it.
totally agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why I think every time somebody becomes that way, the first thing to do is get them into some sort of hey, look, get into getting your hands busy, right? Go work, do something, so
I
that you don't have time to to debate with people online about whatever, or argue and
My
chat
mother
about
would say,
something.
"Idle hands are a devil's workshop," and then she
Yeah,
would give me a broom or rake or something like that. You know what I mean?
yeah,
So you quickly learn not to say "I'm bored" to my parents.
yeah. There's the same at home. Like you, dad. It's like okay, let's go do some work outside, right? I remember like my dad is still alive, but he's great. I think he just turned 87 or 88,
Oh, good for you.
and when back in the 80s when we had when the first time the phones was to come in, I remember dad going to me going, okay, we're going to go get in the phones, and so we got to go dig up the ground and put the lines under this. So they've basically attached it to the post at the front, but we ourselves, you and I, are going to bring it from the footpath to the house. So I need you to help me dig under these two, was it like the wheel tracks, concrete wheel tracks, whatever, in your backyard, for garage, when footpath to the garage. So they have like these concrete things. So we had to dig a hole underneath those two and get a pipe through. And then I had to go under the house, dig a hole under the house to, I think they were supposed to be in the hallway. So, dig a hole through the timber in the house to get that wire into the hallway. Then he would have call in somebody, hey, can you come in now and attach this? Then you'd only have to pay for that time for that. But
Right.
myself, him, and dad had just spent 2 hours digging that. So my dad saved 2 hours of wages by teaching me these things, as well as him, so that we could put a phone line in. Now we would just pay somebody else to just wire it up and so it's ready to go, or we don't even have wires anymore, right?
Yeah.
And
I remember that stuff. My father would be like, "We
Yeah.
need an outlet right here,"
yeah,
and then the joke was always like my father would be working on stuff, and John, go get me, this, and I'm like, I go down into the workroom,
yeah,
and I'm like, I don't know what I'm supposed to get, so whatever if it's wrong, he's gonna hit me with it, so I'll get the smallest thing possible,
yeah,
And I remember he said, John, go get me an Allen key. So I looked and there was this little metal, looked like an L. I'm like, this is the smallest thing here. So when he hits me with this, and I handed it to him, he goes, okay, good. I was like, wow, I got lucky. But I'm like, we had the elbow drill,
the wrench.
Yeah, we had, and that's what we grew up doing, got hit.
Well, I think the problem here is that
I'm holding the flashlight, and then I'm like up, looking at that.
Yeah.
Oh, get hit,
I remember like well, I think the thing now is that there's hardly, I mean, a lot of the time the parents the father's not there, right?
Right.
And so the kids, even daughters, are growing up without learning about certain things that
in the United
taught.
States, we reward bad behavior.
Yeah.
It's when my sister, when she got pregnant with her first kid, the nurses were actively trying to tell her, don't put a father down on the birth certificate. She said, what are you talking about? My husband's the father of the kid. They're like, no, you'll get money. You'll get money. You'll get money.
Yeah.
And she's like, not, you know what I mean? She was like, I can't believe the nurses are coaching me. Like, she just gave birth. You know what I mean? And that's what they're telling her to do. Don't put a husband down. Don't put it, and you'll get money. It's like, so why? Now all these women are married to the government.
Well, that happened here in 1990s, and so they had like teenage girls leaving school pregnant, right? And so they got rewarded for the DPB, which was domestic purposes benefit. So you got paid around about $280 a week. I think that's New Zealand dollars. That's around about 200 US, around approx, a week for basically having a baby, right? And then they go on to have those babies go on to have babies with their fathers, and so on and so on. And so in New Zealand, we found out there's about 3 generations of parents and kids growing up without any dads in the home,
Right.
who've basically been on the social welfare. 3 generations of social welfare. So no work, no nothing, just basically living on the taxpayers' money.
And they're horrible people. These kids are spoiled, entitled. They can't control their emotions. They want instant gratification, and that's why when my friends bring up universal basic income, I'm like, that's what we're going to get. Everybody's going to be a social welfare person, and whoever gets, whatever politician promises to give you more is going to get elected.
That's basically it, right? You only that happened in New Zealand, right? So for the last couple of years, we had a certain group of people, Pacific Islanders, who the socialist government, which is Labour New Zealand, would always reach out for, right? That would always pamper them, and we'll give you this much. And next time, the social welfare, you'll get $20 more at social welfare. If you vote us in, we'll get you $20 a week extra. I'm like, why are you trying to reward people to stay on the dole when you should be saying, we'll reward you if you get into a job, not we'll reward you for not working. And it's like, you always get the vote from the people who want everything for free, right?
Right.
Who want to do nothing. And I find that like those sort of politicians always get voted in because the lazy will always vote those people in, because they don't even realize that the only reason you're keeping those people in.
This is such a controversial thing. So, I didn't make this up, but he goes, who's the bigger threat to society? The greedy rich or the greedy poor?
Greedy poor.
The greedy poor. I mean, I think Bill Gates.
I'm a farmer. I'm a grandson of a farmer, right? And so I know it's the greedy poor who basically will ruin your country, right? Because they always want something for nothing, right? And the chicks for free, right? As the song goes,
right?
Money for nothing.
It's to the point. The older I get, the more elitist I'm getting. It's like I'm starting to think, in order to vote, you should be paying taxes.
I think so. It should be a thing, right? If you're part of society, then you should have a right to vote. And therefore,
you need to be a contributing member of society to vote.
That's the one.
And I said this. I did a stream last night with Telepathic Bunny. We talked about is Christianity rising and everything. And I said one of the big problems is because we've been bombarded for 50 years of leftist propaganda in TV shows, comic books, board games. I'm a big board game guy. Like you can't turn on the NFL in America now. The average conservative totally understands the left. We understand what they think. We understand what they want. But the left has no concept of the conservative, the right. Right away they go to Nazis. They go to you want every woman pregnant and and it all white and everything like that.
Yeah.
And I said this is it in a nutshell. The left is feelings, the right is consequences.
Yeah.
That's
so let me just bring up RJ Williams here.
Well, first, RJ Williams has a comic, call sign Orion. It's on Fund My Comic. Got to give all my buddies. I'm not one of the illest people. The more comic books we all buy, the better we all are. So check out Call Sign Orion on Fund My Comic.
RJ, put a link in there for us. I'll share it. So military service for citizenship, right? So for me, I think that anybody who's able-bodied and on social welfare, or, government service payments, if they're able-bodied, they should do some sort of apprenticeship for work. right? Because I remember when I was unemployed for a bit there, I was doing it was called, I think it was like it was some sort of thing, work for pay, right? Because I would get extra $20 or $40 on my dole, because I was in between full time work and part time work and then no work. And so I spent 20 hours a week basically doing construction work at a church, because that's where they said that I could do that if the church wrote a letter saying, hey, we need work done. And so the government body would, which is Department of Social Welfare at that time, this is about 2001, 99, something like that. And so I got an extra, $20, $40 on my, by doing another 40 hours work, 20 hours work. And what that did was got me into a regular rhythm of going to work in the morning and then going home and then going to work in the morning and then, like doing 4 hours every day and then going to class.
It was skill.
Yeah. So learning how to use, like a jigsaw, a band, what's that, the round one?
Skill saw,
skill saw, just learning all these things. And here's the thing: after that, I got a full-time job as a picture framing, full-time picture framer, right? So, which meant that I learned the skills I learned there. I was able to go to this full-time work for another year.
And you use the miter saw and make those fancy little cuts. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I wasn't allowed to because there was a guy that was his job. But I got to I got to airbrush, varnish and so on, and shellac and so on, and sandpaper and all that all day long, and it was great. And then after that, I did a 3-month course to how to be a customer sales, and then I did that for 2 years as a full-time customer sales, which meant like I spent 12 years being a customer sales rep, right, in stores. And so every time, like I always saw myself as every time I got a little job, I was upskilling every single time, so that anything I learned, I could then use that in the next job. And nowadays, people are like, I need this job, and then I'll be skilled. I need this job, then I'll be skilled. No, everything you have actually learned can come into play if you utilize those skills.
Well, I am of the opinion that most jobs could be taught on the job. If the person has the ability to communicate, a work ethic, and a willingness to learn, And I get it. This is good because I'm not a boomer, even though I look like one. I'm Generation X, but I look at all these people like get a job, and you see these people on TikTok. I have 4 roommates, and dude, I lived with 5 roommates until I was 30. Who told you you were gonna have a house and your own place to live? Knock it off. Like I remember. I remember being like 25 years old in college, living with 5 other guys and arguing over who ate the $1.09 frozen pizza because that was the cheapest thing to eat. We would go down to the 7-Eleven on the corner, and we would have a party. Everybody would come bring beer, drink, and stuff like that. And literally, we were going through the couch for quarters the next day. That's how poor we were in college. You get $1.09. We went down there. We got a frozen pizza, and so we would stick them in the fridge. And I had 7 frozen pizzas. Kevin had 2 frozen pizzas. Now, So who ate the frozen? Oh man, I was just so hungry. All right, you owe me a frozen. It was like jail, bargaining these frozen pizzas. And we didn't complain. That's just the way it was.
Yep.
I didn't think the world didn't owe me anything.
Well, that's the problem now, right? So everybody thinks that the world owes you something. Like I said, I left home at about 16 and a half and went and, hung out and started working from 16. I'm 52 now. So I think I lived with my aunt and uncle for the first 2 years. Then I lived with my other aunt and uncle for the next couple of years. Then I started renting and boarding after that. So I never lived alone. And then I got married, and then I got divorced. Then I never lived alone until since 2000. 2018. That's when first time in my life, I stopped living with somebody else. 2018. That's 7 years ago. That's where I moved into this place here by myself.
That's funny that you said that, because these
Yeah.
girls on TikTok, like, I have a roommate and I'm 28 years old. Dude, you're supposed to be married with 3 kids. You know, you're not going to be living alone either. You know what I mean? Get married, have a husband, stay home, take care of your kids, and you're still not going to be living alone. Like, living alone, I don't know. What do you think? This is Sex of the City? You're going to get this glorious apartment, you know, and contribute nothing to society? It's like, knock it off. That's a TV show, you know. So you think my dad liked waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning? He would work every hour of overtime. Like, I'm not even joking. There was weeks at a time that I only saw my father on Sundays, because I would go to bed before he even got home. And then on Sunday, I never cried because I didn't like catch with my dad. But Sunday, my father was laying on the couch sleeping because he was freaking exhausted. And my mom would be like, be quiet. Leave your father alone. Leave your father. Don't bother your father. Don't bother your father. You know? And so I was in my room writing comic books, drawing comic books, reading comic books, you know, or I'd go to my friend's house. We play Star Wars, you know. But we go to my friend's house. Their father was sitting on the couch on Sunday doing the same thing, you know, because that's just the way blue-collar people lived. You know,
exactly.
You know, and then next thing you know, I'm 25 years old, go to college out in another state, living with guys. You know, we had 6 guys living in a house, fighting over pizza. I never thought I was owed anything, you know.
Yeah.
It wasn't until I was on 35 years old, you know, now I'm in construction, that I was like, hey, you know what? I don't complain about money anymore. You know, I was, 35 years old. Think about like colonial times, like you know, Paul Revere, George Washington. Those guys were in their 20s when they fought the English Empire. You know, and when I was 20 years old, I was going to college for the first. Well, I was working the pizza, but like, you know, I was just drinking beer and trying to pick up chips. You know, like, that's how good it is in the West. You know, and now we got people pining for communism. Like, dude, look at you guys. You're all into magic cards. You know, you're not oppressed. If you're wondering what gender you are super privileged. Because do you think in Afghanistan are wondering what gender they are? You know, you're ultimately of Indian descent. Did you say?
Yeah.
Do you think Indians in southern India are worried about, I'm born in the wrong body? You know what I mean? No, get to work.
Well, that's the thing. You don't have time to think about that.
Right. It is such a Western first world luxury problem. If you feel
it's
like
a privilege,
Mary, you hit the jackpot, buddy.
Yeah,
you hit the jackpot. You know. Are you worried about your immediate family members starving to death? I dated a girl in college. Her mother, no joke. So, hey, Shadow Man, how's Matt? How you doing, buddy? If I dated a girl in college, she was sold by her family from Ireland to a wealthy Arab sheik as a sex slave. You know, so this was a girlfriend's mother. That's how poor they were in Ireland. So my girlfriend's uncle, that she never met because he starved to death when he was like 7 years old. I'm sure I'm getting the numbers wrong, but that's how poor they were. That's how bad it was, that the parents literally sold their daughter into sex slavery, and he had to promise it. And then when she was like 25, 26 years old and aged out, he set her up with, where do you want to live? She was like, America. I don't want to go back to Ireland. You know, moved to America, ended up meeting her future husband, and, you know, my ex-girlfriend was created. And, you know, and I listen to stories like that. I'm like, I literally know people who lived in horror. She grew up in the same town as that guy who wrote that book, that Cormac McCarthy. You know what I mean? When he was talking about the Irish author whose books are just talking about people growing up starving and everything in Ireland. You know what I mean? And now, 40 years later, I don't know what gender I am. It's like, dude, you don't know how good you got it if this is your pressing concern. You know?
Well, that's why, like, I feel like I did my taxes yesterday, right?
Everybody.
Yeah. I filed my taxes yesterday, and I was like, I am so glad I get to work 7 days a week doing what I love, right? I wake up, I put on YouTube, catch up on news, then I, go have a coffee, whatever, brush my teeth. Then I lie down because most of the time I'm just lying in bed and just drawing, right? So I get out my Syntec and I start doing some coloring till my eyes don't want to open anymore, right? Then I go to sleep again, 7 days a week again. Put on a movie and multitask while I'm doing that. I am so privileged, and I'm so grateful for the life I have. I will never be ungrateful ever again in my life.
Right now, my wife and I, we joke around like, what do you want to eat? Like that is our biggest problem. What do you want? I don't want to cook it. Oh man, it's raining. Yeah. I don't want to go to the diner. It's you know what I mean. What a great life,
After COVID, right? So when COVID happened, everybody's rushing to fill their fridges. So after that, I learned that I am never going to have my pantry or my fridges empty ever again. Because usually it was like week to week. I would buy food week to week. So now there is no room in my stand-up freezer, and that's like your chiller, what do you want to call it, like the ice box.
Yeah.
I have a separate ice box that's full of meat, full of vegetable, potato chips, just full of stuff. Then the other one, it's got all everything else just still full. Last week I went shopping and I said to my friend, I have no room to fill in my fridge because I've gotten to a stage where I don't want any of my cupboards to be ever empty again. So it's always full, right?
COVID, we were living in Queens, New York, and I'm just like, this is gonna get bad. Like 2 weeks, the government says 2 weeks to flatten the curve. Like, how long is this really gonna be? So my wife ordered a bunch of MREs, that live like 20 years. So we literally have a closet filled with MREs. And I went and got boxes and boxes and boxes of ammo.
You're right.
You know what I mean? Because I'm like,
just in case.
I don't know. And then we moved, and I was just like, I'm going to rule this town because this is liberal Democrat New York. Nobody's got guns. Then I moved out to Long Island. Everybody's a Trump guy. I'm like, I'm probably food because these guys are professionals out here. But the guys I talk to, they're all like the same thing. They have basements filled with dry foods, rice, beans. Because some of these guys are in their the guys down the block, they're in their 90s. They're old timers. They know hard times. They came from Europe. They through the war. And then other guys said the same thing. COVID scared them into like, we can't rely on anybody. Like I bought a solar generator. I spent a couple of grand, because I was like, we need a gas powered generator. My wife's like, good idea. We'll have 6 hours more power than everybody else before we run out of gas.
Yeah.
I was like, so I went and I got a solar generator. It's I could keep the fridge running or keep the boiler running or something until we run out of oil for the boiler. But it's
one thing I think a lot of the leftists didn't realize is that a plant doesn't grow into fruit, overnight.
Right.
Do you remember that? Like they had that thing in, I think it was New York or California, where they put a tomato seed in the ground in the park, and they were like, "Where is the tomato? Where is the tomato?" I'm like, you do realize it's going to take 6 months for that to grow, or less, or more, depending. Right. But like, I've had a passion fruit seed that I chucked out into my compost thing. It's taken 5 years to fruit on the vine. Now it's only this big. 5 years later, so now it's a purple. It's just coming up now to be actually probably take another 3 months, maybe 4 months.
Classical Greece, Athens. They had the olive. The olive takes 40 years.
Yeah,
40 years. Like, how long were these people farsighted? Did they happen to notice? Did they plant and hope for their children? That's long-term commitment. That's planning. You got to have stability to do that.
Yeah.
And then, like, I'm a history guy. Like the agricultural revolution, the industrial revolution, what was like 40, 50 years or so, but like the agricultural revolution, when we went from hunter-gatherers to farmers, took millions of years.
Yeah.
Like, the average person didn't have the foresight, to plant seeds and then wait. And then if it was bad, like look at all, and then we had the Dust Bowl in the 20s and 30s. And, if you ever see the Grapes of Wrath and, but that's the whole, like, we're supposed to rely on ourselves. Like, who are we going to rely on? Like the government, I don't know if you follow the news, but like right now we have a government shutdown.
Mm.
You know? And my life hasn't changed. I'm going to work tomorrow. You know, like
that's the thing, right? It's like whatever they do, that's fine. They can carry on, but we still got to work to pay our bills.
Somebody on Twitter said taxes are still coming out of my check. The government isn't shut down.
Yeah.
You know, like what are these people going to do when they have a real government shutdown? You know, these women with 4 kids and no fathers. You know, like the meme says, like every woman thinks they're going to be Katniss from the Hunger Games, but in reality they're going to be on the streets. You know, hey sailor. You know,
that's exactly what will happen, right? It's always happened that way. So usually, the oldest job, or what is it called, oldest service in the world is selling self, right?
Yeah.
And then there'll be then there's indentured labor as well, where you sell yourself to be a worker to somebody else.
Right. That's the male equivalent to prostitution. Is basically working in the coal mines. You know, women always say, yeah, but you know, we give our bodies. It's like, what do you think? You think these labor, like the illegal immigrants, you know, working in the. I'm not saying that they don't work hard. You know, they wouldn't do it if conditions weren't bad back wherever they came from. You know what I mean? But like, you know, so I am sympathetic to a point, but that's, you know, day labor is male prostitution, and then prostitution is female prostitution. Like, you know,
well,
these guys like
baby daddies, right? Basically, baby daddies is already female prostitution, because what you got there is now, by having a child out of wedlock or whatever, you know, or by a father who's not there, you're actually now a prostitute for the government, who's paying you to look after that child.
Yeah, you're married to the government now because the government is your provider, and that's what I say. The right is about consequences. You know, ultimately, we don't want you to abort your kids because we want you to pick somebody who will be a provider and be smart. You know, I'm going to be crude for a second, but like I always say, almost 90% of all your problems, men or women, would be solved if you just fuck smarter. Just fuck smarter. You know what I mean? Like, how many of these people, like, they're divorced, they got kids, they don't see this, and they, you know what I mean? Like, women, you married some asshole guy that is abusive or a drunk, or he doesn't want to go to work, or you married some hot, crazy girl who's now ruining you. Just keep it in your pants. Fuck smarter, and you'll have.
Well, the condoms, you know, there is condoms as well, but the other thing is, like, keep your legs crossed. I think men have a tendency.
Is it really worth it? You know what I mean? Like.
It's not
I don't
really
know about
worth
you, but it's a lot of work to you know to get a girl.
I remember, like, when I got divorced, right, in about 2010, when I got separated, and then I think about maybe like 3 years later you get divorced. So 2013, when I got my papers, and legally now we're divorced. I was like, I'm never going to get married again. I don't want the stress of having spent 9 years of my life arguing, buying shit that I don't own anymore, and the stress of, like,
well, that's
why aren't you, when you're working like 70 hours a week and then being told to provide, and then being told that you're not there at home when you need to be. It's like, well,
I lucked out. My wife is I'm not just saying this because she's watching me upstairs. Hi, but no, my wife, like, always ask for stuff, and I'm like, you don't ask for anything. You know, whatever you want, you got. But I've worked with guys who I get furious. Just listen to the story. Like, I have personal friends. Their wives literally got bored and got divorced, and now because they're bored, my buddy's sleeping on a couch at somebody else's house, and he's like, John, I'm a slave. He goes, two-thirds of my take-home pay is gone. I can't afford to live in a place, and my buddy's wife doesn't want me in the house, and I don't blame her. You know what I mean? So, like, where am I going to live? Like, they got to make like apartment complexes for like divorced construction workers. You know, 6 or 7 divorced. But
it's not just construction workers; it's everybody. And the thing here is that
so a lot of, like, the apprentices, they're like, I'm not getting married. Because I saw what
Yeah.
happened to my father. I see what happened to this guy. I see what happened. Why would I get married? Why would I get
Yeah.
married? You know?
Yeah. Well, that's why the whole MGTOW thing, right? Like men who are going away from not getting married and not settling down. So the thing here is that a lot of 20-year-olds and 30-year-olds are not paying attention to what's been happening with their parents, right? With their fathers. And they're still out there running around thinking that it won't happen to them if they sleep around. The problem is that, like, the first thing you got to think about is how to get your career in set, and then save for your future home, because nobody's going to want you anyway if you're not secure in yourself.
Right.
And a lot of these people, a lot of these youngsters out here, and I wish I had that brain cell, right? I had been told that as well as a 20-year-old, that hey, get yourself in order, stop partying every week, all day, all weekend, whatever, and really think about putting at least 10 to 15% of your wages aside. Just put it away. Just put it away, lock it down, and don't think about it, for your life savings. And then someday when you do decide to find that one person that's going to be there for you, and then also do a prenup. Have that prenup in place so that she doesn't take all that savings that you had for your whole life.
And I'll also say this: if you're dating, you're going to get married after 6 months. Stop wasting each other's time. Break up after 6 months. If it ain't going to be married, like even in my worst days, and I was a comic book nerd. I was a fat comic book nerd. It's not like I was there like pickup guy,
Yeah.
Even when I dated, I always like, is this the one I'm going to marry? Is this the one I'm going to marry? And and like after like a year or so, is like, okay, I don't see this lasting. And once I made that decision, I don't know if I sabotaged it or she picked it up or whatever, but we always broke up like after about a year or so. Like, but that was always my thought: is this the one I'm going to marry? Is this the one I'm going to marry?
Yeah.
You wasted each other's time if I mean, when you're 16, that's a different story. You don't even know yourself, but when you're in your 20s, you're wasting each other's time if and I like, I don't know, just know your goals. And the story I wanted to tell is my college roommate Randy. I met him in college. Hispanic kid from a single family. His father took off. His mother was this beautiful blonde. His father was like some Mexican businessman. Never knew his dad. So statistically, this guy should have been, a liberal Democrat loser. But so I came home one day and he was all packed up. He had suitcases. And he's like, he's from Texas. He had that Texas, John, I'm getting out of here. I just wanted to wait and say goodbye. We had a lot of fun. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Because college ain't making me any money. This is a waste of time. I'm just drinking and picking up chicks. I'm not going to class. I'm just wasting time. This ain't getting me no. I was like, you got to go to college. You got to go to college. And he's like, nah, I'm done. And he left and he got a job on a tugboat in the Gulf of Mexico. And he lived on the boat, and he was all strategic about it. He's like, if I live on the boat, I don't have to pay for rent.
Right.
So he parked his car, in the marina, lived on the boat, and then pocketed all the money. The only money he was spending was food and clothes. And, and he just lived on this boat. He did it for 4 years. And then he opened up a coin-operated laundromat.
Right.
He bought one from, and then he literally had a cot in the back of the coin-operated laundromat. And every day he would maintain the machines. He'd learn how to do it, take the coins out, go to the bank. This guy owns coin-operated laundromats, coin-operated car washes, and like strip malls. He's 3 years younger than me, and we lost touch about 10 years ago. The guy's a freaking millionaire. Right. And he told me the successful formula: don't spend all your money, and work harder. Save. Like I say this to everybody, we all know what to do to get rich, and we all know,
but we don't do it.
Right, and we all know what to do to be in shape. The difference is willpower. Like I know what it takes. It's not a magic formula. Eat less and exercise. And, work harder. Don't spend your money on stupid stuff. But when I was, when I knew Randy, I was 24 years old. I wanted to party. I was taking my classes seriously, but I also wanted. And every dollar I got was on comic books or nonsense. You know what I mean? Going out drinking with the friends. Every dollar Randy spent, he put it in the bank. And he got a job. How can I? Not so much how is this more money? No, if I get this job, I don't have to pay for food. And, I don't have to pay for a house, or living conditions,
Mm.
And oh my God, he told me what to do.
Yeah.
And there was a guy who owned a comic book store in Albuquerque. He was, I think, an illegal Chinese immigrant, and he lived in a Volkswagen Bug, but it was Albuquerque, so it never got that cold. And he was delivering pizza. And then the comic book store was going out of business, and he just showed up with a wad of cash that he saved. And he bought the comic. I don't even think he read English. He couldn't care less about comic book stores. He just wanted to run a business.
Yeah.
And then he and his sister lived in cots in the comic book store. At night, they would close down and then cots, sleep. They were back. This place was immaculate. Every light was perfect, clean, organized. And I was in Albuquerque for 7 years. This guy was putting in bids to buy the whole strip mall by the time I left.
Right.
2 people, an illegal Chinese immigrant, didn't even speak the language barely. He made, how is this an oppressive country? He did everything right. We all know that formula. We all know what to do. We just don't want to do it. I didn't want to do it. When they say, what would you do if you had a time machine? I would not eaten so much junk food and got to be a fat bastard when I was 15, 16 years old. And I would have saved all my money. And because now I would be retired now, making comic books full time,
Yeah. Well, I would, if I could go back, I'd basically just go buy this one, buy this comic, buy that comic, and don't buy any of the other ones, and buy that one, and then invest in that company and forget everything else.
Oh, let's be realistic. Bitcoin 2008. That's what we'd all do.
So let's talk about why did you start creating comics? Right? What was that?
Why did I
made you? Yeah. What gave you the bug, as they say, right?
Well, when I was a kid, I always wanted to write the Fantastic Four. Fantastic Four are my favorite. I wanted to write the Fantastic Four. And I always daydream. And then me and my buddies, we started playing. This is a role-playing game called Villains and Vigilantes. It's Dungeons & Dragons, but it's a superhero version. This is actually one of Bill Willingham's first works, his art and story. And next thing you know, instead of playing Dungeons & Dragons, me and my friends were playing a superhero.
Wait, is Bill the guy who did Fables?
Yes.
Great.
Yeah, so literally like 2-3 times a week, we're talking from 12 years old to the time I moved away at 25. We would play Villains and Vigilantes and making up superhero stories and then making up characters. And I just had so much fun. And next thing you know, I had a forum. It was $65 a year, and you'd have a forum, and me and my friends would post our story adventures. This week we did this. We made it like newspaper. It was a lot of fun. Next thing you know, I'm the guy who ran the Villains Vigilantes fan site for the entire world, which sounds impressive, but there were probably about 125 people worldwide.
Yeah, but pioneers, right?
Right, and we did this, and then people like, oh, you should make your own comic book. You should make your own comic book. And I'm like, that is such a cliche to make a comic book based on your role playing game. Everybody who plays Dungeons & Dragons says, I'm going to be the next George R. R. Martin or Tolkien and everything.
Yeah,
and then I started doing the YouTube show, and then guys that I was talking to all of a sudden started making comics, and I'm like, wait a minute, this is something that can be done. Like by this time, Marvel deteriorated to the point I stopped buying Marvel and DC in 2015. Like this was before the woke politics. I just couldn't stand it anymore because I told you I had this, retentive ADD, whatever. Continuity they were breaking continuity in Marvel, and that bothered me. Thank God I stopped then, because if I saw what they did later on, I really would have went nuts. Yeah. So now, me and my buddies, they're older. They got kids. We're not playing as much, and I still have this bug. So I'm like, you know what? I started writing scripts.
When was this?
This was 3 years ago.
Okay, so 2023.
So I took a year. So exactly a year ago in November, my first comic came out. So I'm trying to up the timeline. So I'm rushing to my next comic's in the printer right now, so I could claim to have made 2 comic books in one 12-month period. Right. That's my goal. So I saw RJ from the Fourth Age, He made Tom Valiant. And I was like, oh, cool. I got the comic. I'm like, this is real, you know. And I loved his artist. So I said, do you mind if I contact your artist? Because Renzo Rodriguez, who does the art for my comics, it's to me, it is Bronze Age Marvel Comics. He's like the child of George Perez and John Byrne. If George Perez's talent and John Byrne's talent had a baby, and Renzo, he's just getting better and better. Wait till you see his new stuff. He's working on a story right now. I mean, the stuff that he drew for this issue is almost a year old at this point. He's getting so much better. And I was like, oh my God. So I contacted Renzo. I sent him a script. And he was, you know, he had like 5 clients. So he was juggling me. So it took a long time. Now we have a work relationship that like I send him a script. He starts working on it right away. You know, he stopped taking other people's scripts because he likes working with me. He likes working with RJ. He likes working with Aaron Sparrow. Look at that artwork. That is just awesome. And then he introduced me to his buddy Oscar, who used to work for Marvel Comics as a colorist. And Oscar is an artist in his own right. He's doing a story for me. And everybody talking on the internet, I started meeting this guy, like Bill Williams. He was a letterer. So he's like, you want me to letter? I was like, yeah, sure. And then Bill Williams, turns out he's friends with Bill Willingham. You know what I mean? So now he got Bill Willingham to come on my channel. And it's just be pleasant, talk to people, and ask. And I got to say, without all of these people's help, that of everybody that I've ever spoke to on my channel, I've had a lot of pros and amateurs alike. They've all given me advice, helped me. And sometimes the advice hurts. Sometimes the criticism hurts. But like, okay, I see what you're talking about. That makes sense. That's good. And next thing you know, I got a comic book. And it was fun. The second issue is so much better. The next issue is light years better. Like every issue is like exponentially better than the last issue. So this is the patriarch. This is my character. We were talking earlier about politics. Now, you know, I am inserting politics in the comic books, but I think I'm doing it in a subtle way. So the patriarch is a father. He's Christian. He's a good husband. He's a loyal protector. He's everything positive that to me a superhero should be. So, you know, he also lives off the grid. He doesn't trust the government. He homeschools his kids. So his wife is home right now with his kids. He has 7 children. They work on a farm. They raise their own food. You know, he's doing everything that like the individual rugged American, like if this came out in 1870, this would just be the way a family would be. You know what I mean? Mm. But we've lost our way as Americans. So here's my response. So he's the ultimate masculine guy in every positive sense. He's positive masculinity. Now this character is Mary Sue. This is her debut. I got so tired of the girl boss, the girl boss, the girl boss. So I wanted to make a goof. I'm like, and I'm just going to name her Mary Sue. So that is her name, Mary Sue. SU is a Chinese last name. So Mary Sue's grandparents fled Mao Zedong's China,
right,
in the 50s, and they were Roman Catholics. So it's like you had convert, flee, or die. So they flee. They came to Flushing, New York, penniless, and its story is based on one of the guys I worked with. This guy Tuan, the story that his family. So they started a small like convenience store, and then the son turned it into Sue Mart. So now there's a nationwide change of Sue Mart. So Mary Sue is now born. She's beautiful. She's got 3 PhDs by the time she's 22. Right. She's wealthy, you know, and she doesn't drink. She doesn't smoke. She's still a virgin. So she's the perfect girl in the eyes. She's religious. In the eyes of her grandmother, she's perfect. You know, the only thing now is go get married and make me grandkids kind of thing. That's the only, you know, thing wrong. But are you a doctor?
Become a doctor.
Yes,
she is. Or become a doctor or a lawyer. Bring home the money now.
She's got 3 PhDs in advanced physics and things like that. So she is a doctor. And now she gets the ultimate power. She could rewrite reality. So she you know, and when she's using her powers, I don't want to say casually, but when she's not straining, she can make the improbable happen. So like if you're in the middle of a fight, like something that could happen, not the impossible, the improbable could happen. So a ground, you could take a step, and you know how you miss your step and you twist your ankle, that could happen and you fall down. So I'm trying to show how the Scarlet Witch's power is supposed to be but if she exerts herself, she could rewrite possibilities. Now, this story is how she got her power, so she doesn't know she has these powers. And she does something. She rewrites probabilities, and it changes the timeline.
Yeah.
She's the only one. When she does, she remembers the past timeline. So she's the only one who knows something's wrong. Or is it wrong? It's something that's good, but she feels it's wrong. And then the next issue, we're going to deal with the consequences of what she did in this issue. And I'm being vague on purpose because I want you to read the comic. The comic is done. Mike Barron said it was very well written. Mike Barron, comic book legend. And it's told she's bleeding to death. If it's told through flashbacks. This is all merchandise that you could get.
Yeah, tell me about this. Right, I was looking at this and I was thinking, like, what is this? Is that plastic, metal? What is it? What are these?
These are metal coins, and of course, I don't have one right here. I usually keep them right here because I like to play with them. But this is a metal challenge coin.
Yeah,
it's the size of 2 quarters. The other coins are the size of quarters, and of course, I don't have any right here. That's of course I don't. I think I got them right here, but they're metal. There's a place called Norse Foundry, and if anybody's interested in coins from the Norse Foundry, you got to give them time. So okay, so here's one right here. I got it in my drawer. These are metal coins. Listen, they're the size of a quarter, and one side says Heroic Tales, the other side has the patriarch symbol, and then I got other ones that have Mary Sue symbols, and the next issue I'll get ones that say the Raven. But you got a plan. So I didn't realize how long they were going to take, so I made a panic buy of these, and I made 20 of them. I think I have 11 left of these challenge coins. And then what a coincidence, both coins show up on the same day, so I could have them for the campaign. But I like coins, so I want to make coins with the character symbol on them. So that's that. So
how for people, for indie comics creators who are watching this, what's the cost involved in? And I don't want, is it expensive? I don't need actual figures, but is it expensive, or what's the deals?
Well, to make a comic book, it's
no to make the coins. Like, what was the price like with coins?
Let's put it this way: what am I selling these coins for? $6 each. So, but I had to get a minimum of 300.
Right.
So I'm not going to tell you what it cost me because,
Well, it's going to be expensive because, I have
to get 300 coins and I'm selling them for $6 a piece. So so figure out, and you have to pay half. This is for Norse Foundry. You have to pay half for them to even start designing the coin.
Sure. And
then when you approve it, you pay the other half, and then it takes months for them to ship it to you.
Yeah.
These coins, I'm selling them for $35 each. So
you're talking about the color one. You're talking about this one here, right?
Yeah, the big one, the challenge coin. And but these will be in your house in 2 weeks.
And then this one is like the $6 one.
Yeah, those take months. So I'm like a year away from Heroic Tales 2, which is gonna. So I'm gonna actually start placing the order for the Raven. It's gonna have his symbol on the coin because that's how long it takes. So you got to plan in advance. This T-shirt company, it's supplemented, so it's not an iron-on tattoo. So this is never gonna fade. It's part of the shirt itself. Like they showed me the process of they make it. Like it's sublimated in the dyes. They got different fabrics that they put, and then they sew them together, and it's a seamless T-shirt. Man, I searched and searched and searched to find a company that would make the shirt the way I want. Like I saw all these other guys making like hoodies that were so cool looking, and nobody could. Like I went locally because I figured I could go place the order, and like 2 weeks later pick them up. But I ended up getting. So if anybody wants to make shirts, email me. I'll tell you this company. Customer service was excellent, but you got to pay up front.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, and so I mean, I got boxes of them right here. Obviously, like if I sell them all out, I'll make a profit. But I didn't sell them all
Sure.
out yet. So right now I'm operating, you know, like our business. You know, I'm hoping that I sell them all out and then I could put it in another order.
Yeah.
But until then, I'm warehousing a couple boxes right here. They're t-shirts, so they pack them up really small. You know, and I think, yeah, this pint glass. This to me, I sell these for $10 each, and I forget what company it was, but I used them before. I like making like a pint glasses, you know, like we for like events. So I ordered 24 of them, you know, $10 each. So I sell them for $10 each, and that, you know, that includes the shipping. So that, and you have to pay it all at once. And as I'm doing this, the guy says to me, you know, you could order 72 for the same price. And I'm like, I'm not falling for that. You know, the same price, but
Yeah.
I'm paying for. And he goes, no, literally what you're paying right now, instead of getting 24, you could get 72. And I was like, no offense, buddy, but I don't believe you. Send me an invoice for $72 for 72 of these pint glasses, because I already have an invoice for 24. So he sent me an invoice for the same exact price. So I was like, bing. So I got boxes of these in my garage right now. And I figured I'm going to ship them all over the world and they're going to break. None of them broke. I shipped them to Vancouver from New York. I shipped one to Scotland, and Canada, in the United States. None of them broke. The only one that broke was when my buddy took it out of the box. He showed it to his wife. His wife went like this and dropped it. That's not on me. That's on you. That's on you, Brian. These are cards. I decided I'm going to do 7 cards a comic, because for 7 cards, I could sell them for $2 a card, or 7 for $10. And that if anybody's offended by the word profit, I'm sorry, but you have to make money to make more comic books. So at $10,
well, I mean, if anybody's offended and who is creating comics, better get out of comics right now.
Right.
Honestly, if you're not about making profit, why are you here? All right, because the whole point of creating one comic and making profit is so that you can create another comic, and then another comic, and then the other comic.
The point of me making the comics is because I want to make comics.
Yeah.
But I have to make a profit in order to make the comics. Like, it's not about the money. I have no illusions that I'm going to be able to retire and sell my stuff to Netflix or sell 200,000 copies a month of Patriarch and live off that money, you know, burning cigars with $100 bills. No, but my dream is, if I could break even on every comic book, that's a success for me. You know, because this is just something I want to do. So as of right now, I'm doing pretty good. You know, I paid for the first comic out of pocket. I made some mistakes. Like the pint glasses was kind of a crazy idea. You know, I still got most of them left, but I paid for it out of pocket. And then the $8,000 that I made, I used to make this comic. Right. Now, but I streamlined expenses. I know who I could work with, who I can't work with. You know, I went a little crazy on promotion and stuff like that. And now, like, I already have like the Rollo printer, the scale to ship everything out. I got boxes of Gemini mailers in the garage. You know what I mean? So a lot of the expenses from the first comic I could roll over. So now I have $6,000 to make issue 3. But a lot of that initial investment is already, you know what I mean? So I really only have to make like $6,000 a comic to break even. Yeah. If I make $10,000, oh my God, I'm going to jump up. I'm going to give Renzo extra money. You know, that's my first thing. As I want Renzo the artist, because let's be realistic. Nobody's buying the comic book because of me. They're buying it because the art is so good. And somebody was busting my chops. You only got Renzo because he's cheap Mexican. I'm like, have you seen his art? He was literally my first choice. Look at that.
Yeah. Look
at that. That looks like my goal is I want you to think of Bronze Age Marvel and DC. That's my goal. You know, and issue number 1 had a shocking scene in it, and somebody was offended by it. And I'm like, you obviously haven't read Bronze Age Marvel and DC. I never said it was kids comics. I said it was all age comics. And if you know, in the 80s, there was a lot of suggestive stuff. So I'm not going to do nudity. Next issue 3 is about a violent vigilante. So it's going to be more violent than normal, but nothing you haven't seen if you read Mike Barron and Chuck Dixon's Punisher. you know, in the 80s. So these are variant covers. This is Josh Howard does Mary Sue on the right, and this is Jose Garcia does the patriarch fighting the Subterranean on the left. So each comic has two covers because it's a flip book, meaning you read the patriarch story, you get the cover, you flip, and then somewhere you're going to see the last page. You know, I put like an ad so you don't see the last page, and then you flip the book over, and now you got Mary Sue on the cover. I felt bad. I didn't want to fleece you guys and make 4 variations, you know, and then maybe it's bad business, but whatever. So I got this idea. So from now on, Heroic Tales is always going to be a flip book because I want to put, if you don't put anything on the back cover, you get it cheaper. You know, Comics will put an ad. But
the thing about flip books is that having a cover or art on the back of the comic is that when you're actually having to sleeve up, that sometimes you can scratch the back because of the card that you put in the back of those you know, was it Mylon or whatever they call it? We call it bag of bone in New Zealand, right? Yeah. So plastic and the card there. So sometimes you can scratch the cover because you're trying to get it in there. Do you think was this what was the whole idea behind doing a flip book rather than just doing a straight 2 stories in a book?
Because I wanted to have art on the back cover.
Okay.
So I would have had to have paid for another page of art anyway. But I was like, do I really want to make 4 covers? You know, like if because I know comic book collectors are compulsive. Like, are people gonna buy 4 covers? You know, so I was just like, you know what? Rather than put something weird on the back, I'm just gonna put another cover. To me, this is the best value. You're getting 2 covers. You know, anybody else would charge you. You want this cover $10. You want this cover $10. So now you're getting like $20 worth of covers on one comic book. 2 complete stories. Like, you're not going to wait 6 years for the continuation. No, it's, you know, even if you never buy another Heroic Tales, you're getting 2 complete stories. You know, and if you missed issue number 1, which you shouldn't because you can still get number 1 on this campaign, you're going to know what's happening. You know, I'm trying to copy that old Marvel thing of every issue is somebody's first issue. Like my next campaign, I'm spitting the Patriarch off into his own comic. So it's Patriarch number 1, and I haven't told his origin yet. So so far it's 45 pages of just origin. So I think I'm going to round it up to it has to be divisible by 4. So it might be 15 pages. So I'll put giant size origin of the Patriarch, you know, like on the cover, and I'll have to raise the price. But that is not going to be a flip book because it's just the Patriarch. It's one character. So I already have the back cover drawn. My philosophy is, if you did the art, you got the cover. So Renzo's going to draw the Patriarch, and then he's going to draw whatever he wants for the cover.
Right.
He's the one looking at the art. So, you know, all of these covers that Renzo drew, he came up with them. Now, Jose Garcia, he didn't read the script. He has no clue. I just hired him, so I basically told him what to draw. Josh Howard, same thing. He didn't read the script. He doesn't know the characters. I just commissioned him and basically told him what to draw. I drew stick figures and stuff like that.
Sure.
But so that's going to be my model going forward. I think I'm going to have the main artist do the cover, and then maybe a variant cover. You know, so but just that's it. Regular cover, variant cover. Now scroll down here because now I'm a hypocrite because I'm already breaking my rules. This is a cosplay cover. So this is the 3rd cover. So I already said I only want to have 2. This popped up on its own because I was like, let me sell these t-shirts. So Martina Marcota, she goes by Lady Alchemy. She had a comic book and she was on my channel, and I think she's really cool and she's beautiful. So I was like, can I send you a t-shirt? Would you pose? And I just wanted to sell t-shirts. You know, everybody's going to look at this hot chick in this t-shirt. It looks great. So she sent me a bunch of pictures, and people like, you got to make a cosplay cover. So I was like, are you guys going to buy it? Because I got to pay for the print files and all this stuff. So and then I was like, well, now I got to get somebody to model for the Patriarch. So it's not here, but Crenshaw does the Patriarch cover. I'll get that for you and I'll show you. So I have 3 variations. The cosplay cover is the rarer one. So I got all the pre-orders done. And then
How many did you limit to? Like the cosplay one, how much did you put a limit on that?
I would have, if I sold 600 of them, I would have ordered, I don't know, 1,000. You know what I mean?
Right.
But right now I only ordered 100 of them. So so this is by far the rarest of the 3 covers is the cosplay cover. I'm going to send some to Martina, and I'm going to send some to Crenshaw. But this is what the Patriarch cover looks like. If you want to share my screen, so that's Crenshaw as the Patriarch cosplay cover. I think it's fun. So there you go. No offense to Crenshaw, but everybody's gonna bag it with the Mary Sue side facing forward, so you can look at the beautiful Martina. Sorry, Crenshaw, if you're watching this. I think you understand. But I love that. He's such a cool guy. Such a cool guy, Crenshaw.
Yeah.
And Martina, me personally, I love the one in the corner box. She looks so good in that. The lighting is just perfect. And keep in mind, she had a baby like 2 months before she took this pic. Look at that waist. Oh my God, it's amazing. Your husband is a lucky man, Martina, if you're watching this.
So now, one thing you had this in this cover, right? So when I came across it, I was like, you just mentioned that it was a what is it called? All ages book.
Right.
What was the situation in the first issue that somebody was complaining about?
In the first issue, the backup story, it's about a young Lucius Kane is going on a job interview, and it's based on me. And his clothes were all ratty. He wants to get a job. The deputy mayor of Chicago is hiring.
Yeah.
So he goes to he has these aspirations of being a politician, but he can't go to ratty. So he goes to a thrift store, and all the clothes are garbage. But he finds a beautiful suit, and he buys the suit, and the suit is just gorgeous. Like when you see he puts on the suit, everybody starts looking at him, flirting with them and everything. And he reaches in and it says inspected by 666. That literally happened to me. I bought a pair of pants and it said inspected by 666. And I was like, I can't wear the devil pants. My friend's like, oh man, the devil pants. You wearing the devil? So that became the joke. That inspired this. So now he goes on a job interview, and the job's already filled. Blah blah blah. Thank you for coming. And he reaches into his pocket, and there's a Polaroid picture in the pocket, and he looks at it, and the guy goes, what is? And he hands it to him, and the guy's holding the picture. He goes, you got the job. You start tomorrow. And he's like, oh, okay. And then he goes home, and his family's like, congratulations. And he's like, and then the last panel is what's on the picture.
Right.
So the moral dilemma is he found information out about this person interviewing him. Did he go to the police, or did he use it to his advantage? He crossed through. That was the day he became a supervillain.
Right.
And what's on that picture is so shocking, and I don't want to spoil it, that when Ron Mosicki drew it, I almost trashed the. I was like, he's too good of an artist. This is too disturbing. And he said, yeah, I didn't like drawing it either, but I understood what you were going for. So a couple of people like, oh man, I'm like, yeah, well, he basically made a deal with the devil. He's an evil person. Yeah. And that's him right there. You see the guy in the suit? That's Lucius Kane. Now he's the mayor of Science City. It's 20 years
about this guy here?
Yeah. And that's the beauty, is the Patriarch knows he's a supervillain. He knows that the Patriarch knows that but it's the Superman Lex Luthor thing. He can't just beat him up in front of everybody. He's got to build a case. The Patriarch still has respect for the rule of law. And like it or not, because of his demonic influences, he's an efficient mayor. They happen to have whatever they need because he's blackmailing people. He has means of digging up information about other people. So Science City is run really well, even though there's problems with Science City that That's one of the main gists of the whole story is this problem.
Yeah.
The city itself is causing problems. Like, how come Gotham City has people that dress up like penguins and jokers and clowns and commit crime, but not Baltimore, not Seattle? You know what I mean? There's something wrong with Gotham City, you know? So there's something wrong with Science City. And in this issue, we're starting to see he goes below Science City, and there's a whole civilization of monsters below the city.
Mm.
You know, that's the, you know, so when he's with his wife, we don't have the word balloons there, but he's saying to his wife, I'm taking the day off today, man. I'm going to stay home. And the wife's going, oh, good. We're going to play Dungeon Crawl. Cause I didn't want to say Dungeons and Dragons, but you know, we're going to play Dungeon. She's like, oh, good. The kids want to play, you know, he wants to spend time with the kids. And then a kid fell down a sinkhole. He's a superhero. You know, he does what he has to do. Dad doesn't want to work overtime, but he has to work overtime. So he takes off. And he's fighting monsters underground. And he says later on, I guess I'm playing Dungeon Crawl after all. You know. So
I had so I'm writing a mature comic, like R18. It's one of my first ones where we're doing a full on. I had to, when I was doing the script, I didn't actually put any panel descriptions or anything. I just wrote just a script, just dialogue and stuff. And my artist, James, the other week said to me, hey, what are we doing with this page here? And I went, oh, I didn't realize I hadn't done it, right? And so when I looked at it, I went, I actually don't feel comfortable doing this page. And I was actually going to, I didn't send him the note, but I actually wrote a note saying, hey, I really hate this page, you know, what's happening on this page, but I know I got to have this page in here. But so I wrote the note down for him for the, you know, for that one page descriptor. And then I deleted it, then sent it to him without even telling him what I was going to say to it. But it's, I think you come across pages like that as a writer, right, where the story calls for it, but you have to push yourself to either write that page or not. Like you're saying in that last page of your one, right? There's that when you're revealing what's on that card or that photo, and you don't really want to do it, but you do it because it's what the story calls for, because that's what's going to drive the story along,
right?
You know, because it's gonna do what the story needs to do without you trying to like control the story. Because I think a lot of times, you know, as a writer or as a creative person, you can try to control the story to go the way you want it, and it doesn't at that point doesn't feel right because it takes away from where the story needs to go.
Right. I absolutely agree. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, it was really difficult.
The first issue, it went exactly the way I wanted it to go because it was, you know, the first time writing all these characters. The Mary Sue story, you know, issue 2, the story went exactly the way I wanted it to. But issue 3 is already written, and I will say I introduced my street level vigilante character, the Raven. He's like a Batman Punisher mashup. That story took off on its own, and I didn't mean it to go the way it did. I had an idea. Like I came up with the villain, and the villain motivates the story, and the Raven reacts to it like a Batman story, like he's going to, and oh my god, it got really violent, you know, but it works. And then the Mary Sue story, I didn't realize I was writing a horror story. Right. You know, it's a follow up to what happens in issue number 1, and the last page, I had no intent because I'm such a continuity freak. Like every character, like you know, except for, you know, like this second panel right there, the main characters, Lucius K. the May. I know what's going to happen to him. I have his future plotted out. The Patriarch, I know what's going to happen to him. I got 25 years of stories to him if people allow. And then in the background, that's Regina Lopez. She's my Lois Lane character. She's disturbed. I have all of their fates planned.
Right.
But in Mary Sue, I already know what's going to happen to her. The Raven, I already know what's going to happen to him. But the last page, I was just like, I got to write this. And so one of my friends who read the script, he said, so what's going to happen next? I was like, I don't know. The story told me to write that page, you know? So I'm kind of excited. Like I have like a like a wild card in my universe, because everything is planned.
Yeah.
You know, like there's Mary Sue. Like, I know it's going to happen to her parents, her grandmother. That's her brother Daniel. Like, I know their stories. You know, the doctor who shows up, I don't know his story. He's just the guy who comes in to deliver some information. You know, but yeah, but it's fun. It's fun. So yeah, I see what you mean. Sometimes like you got to go with the flow. Like with this happen, like the Raven. I wrote the Raven's first appearance, and it went exactly the way I planned it, because he was a brand new character. But his second appearance, right. I already wrote that. He told me what to do. You know what I mean? And it got to be, it was more violent than I wanted, but I'm like, it was almost just like, dude, don't you know who I am? I'm violence. He's the anti-patriarch. Just imagine you're obsessed, you're crazy, and then your wife wants a divorce in the middle of all this. He can't go beat up his poor wife. He's got to go beat up the villains. So so he was a response to the patriarch. He's what happens when you're not happy, when you're not stable, you know. And then Mary Sue is the perfect life, and she used her powers to make it more perfect. Again, I'm being cagey, but I really
well, you can't give away everything, to a story. I think,
but look at this art. I mean, Renzo is so good, and you got to see the next stuff he's doing. It's even better. It's even better. Like, I got a little annoyed when that person was like, "Oh, you just picked Renzo because he's Mexican." I'm like, "Have you seen his art? He was literally my first choice. If Renzo had said no to me, I wouldn't be making a comic book."
Right.
Because he is the only person that I know of that does superheroes the way they should be. If you ask, you know what I mean? Like, they look like the Bronze Age, which the 80s, that was to me the best era of superhero comics. Now I have other guys that are doing non-superhero stuff, you know. But for my superhero comics, Renzo he's so good. I love working with him. You know, and it's an awesome responsibility. Like that awesome. Like, yeah, it's like kind of scary that like he's now at the point where he's like, I'm turning down work because I want to work with you. I'm like, oh God, I got to stop fighting with people on Twitter because it's going to affect him now. You know, he's got kids. You know, he's a family man. So I think I got to tone it down a notch.
Yeah, there are a lot of great artists around the world, and I think a lot of people don't understand that. You know, there's a select group of people who think that you got to pay $200 a page for everybody to get your art to look great. Where the other day I got one of our affiliates basically put out he's an editor writer on a book, and he put out that, hey, we're going to pay $40 a page for pencils and inks, and somebody in the comments, right, on the group page, on the Facebook group page for artists looking for artists and writers, whatever, inkers and pencils, he said, well, there's other people only offering $15 to $20.
Not me,
right? That's what I mean. So there is
my page rate, but if
the
$20, $50, no. I would.
Well, the thing here is that people are actually trying to stop other people from creating comics by saying that creating comics is so far out of reach by putting a $200 a page rate in front of them, right? So saying, hey, it's only possible if you want to write comics, you have to pay $200 for pencils.
Ultimately,
you know,
draw it yourself.
Yeah.
I think the best way to make comics is to do everything yourself. I can't draw. I mean, right. I can draw, but it's not. Nobody wants to pay for what I could draw.
Yeah.
You know. So.
Well, I do everything on our 7 books apart from the art, right? So I think the thing is that a lot of people are getting put off by so-called has-been professionals who tell people that, oh, it's only, you should only pay $400 and this is the rate. That's like, no, it's not. There are people out here
who wants to make your own comics. My advice is find an artist, pay per page. a lot, until you trust this guy or girl, don't pay for 10 pages because there's a lot of scam out there, and there's a lot of people. Okay, so we negotiate, I don't know, some ridiculously low thing like $100 a page. Then you pay him the $200, and then he gets another job doing $60 a page. What do you think he's going to do? So,
well, that's why,
pay immediately.
Well, the thing is,
as soon as I get a page, you're paid within minutes. As soon, okay, fix this, fix that, boom. That's what you got to do. And it's get the guy that you could afford, get a guy that you could work with. If you're paying $20 a page, this guy is, you also can't needle him for constant corrections. You know what I mean?
Well, it depends whether you have a contract with the people, right? So if you're upfront about what they're in for, like usually when you're putting out saying, hey, this is what I've got a project going, and this is, anybody interested, send me your work, let's see what you can do. What are you capable of? How quick you are? What are your other works? And then you negotiate. However, certain people try to tell you that, like, well, you just got to pay the page rate, and that they will do it. A lot of time people run away with that money and then go, oh, here's my one page, and bye-bye, I got another job, like you said.
Right.
So a lot of times when it comes to actual publishers, they'll say, well, we'll pay you at the end of the project, because we know that once you finish, then you'll get the project paid. Because a lot of times that when you pay page by page or 4 pages at a time, and they could run away anytime. They could do whatever they want, especially if they're somewhere else, right? If they're not local, if they're somewhere else, they could take off anytime. I think, I'm not sure how Marvel or DC do it, but when you're contracted to do a piece of work, and then you get paid for that work. The other side of the coin is this, that right now, because of AI, people would just go, well, if you're not going to accept this, then we're just going to go and do it AI. And so artists need to be a bit more flexible with what they're expecting from people as well.
Because I just don't think AI will. It's not going to do what you want. It's going to get close to what you want. Like I don't know how other people work, but like I write a full script. I write.
Sure.
Hey, Matthew, how you doing? I write a full script, so each panel is like this much. It's huge in description and everything like that. So Renzo really doesn't have to do too many corrections. Oh, Matthew, hope you're okay. You're in the hospital. Geez, hope everything's all right. Let me know. Keep me posted. But I don't need to give him too many corrections because it's all there. Now, words are difficult. Especially when you work with somebody with another language as their prime, you got to be precise in everything, because $20 a page, this person's not going to freaking fix everything. I wouldn't,
No, that's what I mean. So, but that's the low end, right? That's what I mean. There's a low end. So
I could put exactly what I want, but it's AI. It's going to read it like a robot, and it's going to get something. It's never going to be what you want. So go ahead, use your AI comic books. I ain't going to buy it. It's not going to look right.
Oh, I understand it. No, what I'm trying to say is, like, see, there are people who do great work everywhere, right? But the problem is there's two sides of the coin. One side is this, right? What Eric's saying here, that some people string artists along and pay them late or not at all.
Oh yeah, that you can't do that. It's
right.
You're going to get a reputation. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Eric. I'm so scared of that. I pay almost immediately.
Yeah.
Let me look. Like if I'm at work, I don't want to look at your page on my phone. Let me look. Let me go home, look at it on the computer. You know what I mean? And then I like Oscar's my colorist, Renzo's my long term. Like I'll pay them, and then like 4 days later, I'm like, oh geez, that's the wrong color. Like this person has blonde hair. Oscar, would you mind fixing it? We have a rapport that way. Like I could see other guys like, you already paid. I'm moving on. So be careful about that.
Yeah, I'm with me, because I'm working with like several artists around the world, right? And they all have different contracts with the publisher and so on. So I don't deal with the financial side of that unless I'm paying someone directly myself and saying, here's what I need you to do. one thing is that there's a whole bunch of groups, pages on Facebook, which is where artists go and look for work. And the thing is that right now in the industry, because of what's happening with AI, which I despise, AI images, right, is that some people will use that as a leverage to push artists into corner to lower their rates. And I think that's wrong, because if you're going to put out AI images, not art images, then you're already, I don't want to be near you or be known to be near you or have any affiliation with you straight away, because at the end of the day, in comics, we are actually creating art,
Right.
not images. We're creating actual emotional creativity that we are, we've spent decades building up in our heads. These stories don't just come out of anywhere; they come out of our experiences and so on. And yeah, it's fantasy, whatever, but I think a lot of that, it comes from our inner being as a human being. Like they say that everybody's got a story to tell, right? But the thing about comic books is it's a team project. And you're working with two different people with two different skill levels, or three different skill levels, depending if you've got art, a colorist, letterer, and so on, to make a great piece of work that you can hold in your hands. That's why I really do not like digital art, like
Right.
digital comics, like digital comics. I just, I need to hold the damn thing in my hand.
You can see I got
Or
a
it's,
pack of comics.
yeah,
I want physical
yeah.
comics in my hand.
Because if it's not physical, I don't think it's real to me, right, mentally. So I like to see that physical thing. So when there's someone actually drawing or even digitally drawing something, it's not real until it's in your hand. Like, and sometimes it takes years to do that. I think this is what people don't realize that there's a lot of thought process that goes into the creating of something, right? Especially when it comes to character, all the stories you want to tell, all the backgrounds and stuff. But I think strong arming artists is not the way to go.
That's not good.
And also, I think strong arming publishers is not the way to go as well, by artists, by not keeping in contact. Also, there's this other thing that's happening because of the internet, is that there are people who are saying that they're the artists, but they have other people working for them who then they approach publishers to say, "Oh yeah, this is my rate," and then they'll rip off the actual artist by overcharging for it's a real mess out here right now. But the other thing is that
you got to find somebody that you can work with, somebody that you can trust. Absolutely,
that's the thing.
And it's a two-way street. If you find somebody that you can work with and somebody that you can trust, you got to pay them on time. Don't nickel and dime them. Don't argue with them. You got to make sure as the artist that your script is clear. You know what I mean? Like, because Renzo's got a family. He's drawing. If he's constantly working, I hope I'm not telling, but he stopped working with somebody because he said no matter what he drew, it wasn't the picture in my head.
Yeah.
I can't telepathically put this picture. So I use this medium called words and language. So I'm aware of that. And I'm also aware that English is his second language. So I try to maybe overdo it. And sometimes you use too many words. And a few times things had to be changed. Like there's been, we're finishing up our third, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're finishing, Renzo and I are finishing up our 5th story together. And I had 3 corrections so far.
Sure.
Because the guy's got kids. The more time he's doing corrections, he could be doing another page. So what my point being is, you find somebody that you trust. It's your responsibility to pay this guy on time, be as clear and as concise, and use your words properly so that you limit his time. You got to value your artist. He's not there as a tool for you. This is another human being. You got to respect that.
The other side of that is a writer, right? You know what you want, and then sometimes it's hard to describe that in the words, right?
Well, then you're a bad writer. You have to be. You know what I mean?
Hold on, John. So a friend of mine said to me, "Aru, I can't see inside your head." Right? So this is how you got to approach an artist: is that they can't see inside your head, so you have to write down what you need. But the other side of the coin is, The artist understands how that page should look. That's his job of that, to take what you're writing and to visually interpret what you're saying in a way that the reader, then the third person out here, can see it as represented in the way that the two of you are working together to do that. That's what I mean by why physical art and why comic book art is important over this AI shit, because it's not just putting in words and that thing spits it out. It's actually two people coming together to create something visually enticing to a reader. And because at the end of the day, if what you're trying to say and what the artist is doing isn't pleasing to the reader, they ain't gonna stick around. And I'm seeing a lot of that now.
I got like altogether about 7 artists working on different stories at different rates.
Sure.
And most of them are amateurs. A couple of guys are like if I got a page, if you want to show this page, look at this page is so good. But this guy is a professional animator. He's doing it's a golden age story, so it's set in 1946. Look at that. He's changing it, but this guy's a pro.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And then I got another guy. I sent him a detailed script, and he's doing whatever he wants, but he's a pro. He could do whatever he wants. You know what I mean? So like, I said, I trust you. As long as you don't change. I said, because I'm a continuity guy. As long as you don't change the continuity of my world, do whatever you want, man. So like, but Renzo, he wants as much. I like this panel. We're coming in from overhead and we're looking down.
Yeah.
Because he's looking at us like, I don't want to spend time doing rewrites. I don't want to spend time redrawing. You know what I mean?
Right.
And then I got Oscar, who's my colorist. He's drawing a story for me, and he tells me, no, that panel ain't gonna work.
Right.
You know what I mean?
So
I'm like, okay, Oscar. You know, he goes, no, I'm gonna break this. He goes, you got 2 focuses in this panel.
Right.
He goes, the comic book on the desk that the man's reading and the clock on the wall are 2 different focuses. So I'm gonna do this, and that's fun too. That's fun too. Like, I get a kick out of when Oscar sends me a page. I'm like, yeah, it conveys the story. It conveys the story in a different way, but that's fun.
But there's also like, a lot of artists these days they want to cut corners and not do thumbnails, right? And not only thumbnails, but they don't want to like do what is that? This is the next stage up from thumbnails, where you kind of like do a loose representation of the panel, so that if there's any mistakes, you can't fix it there, right? I mean, sorry, if there's any mistakes, you can fix it in that area. But usually, if they end up doing it in the final pencils, then now you got to change the final pencils rather than changing the thumbnails. And I think with the rate system, you can't pay everybody the same rate because not everybody has the same level of skill. And I think that's why a lot of times new people coming into it, they're going, oh, yeah, I can do this. And then now pay me $100 a page. And then you look at their work and go, dude, that's not even worth $20 what you're doing here, right? And I think a lot of times because people are like that, they're also cheating by showing, oh, this is what my page looks like because it's online, right? But then when the work turns up, isn't what their work is. And I think a lot of times you've got to do a lot of research if you're working with artists now.
Right. I've been getting emails from people. Oh, I'm an artist. You know, one guy, he's from India, and he says he wants $30 a page, which makes me feel really guilty to pay this guy $30 a page. And the pages that he submitted, that he showed me, were really, really good.
Yeah.
Now, part of me is like, is this a scam, or is $30 a page good? I never worked with anybody in India before. Like, I would be crazy to say no if this is real. So I think I want to send him a story and then pay him for 1 page. Like, is this AI? Is this a scam? I can afford to lose $30. And if he's as good as he says, I'll pay him more. I'll pay him more. But like, but I'm gambling $30 on this guy.
Yeah, but the thing is that $30 American is what, like 100 rupees.
I don't know. I don't know.
How far does that rupees take? So $30 in New Zealand, if I remember right, would be about 45 New Zealand dollars. That's 2 hours of work. right? So depending on a person, how fast they are, he'll be like, okay, I can do this in one day. Now I've got $45 New Zealand in my pocket, compared to what he would get on a day working as a laborer somewhere. And I think this is the other side of what globalism has made it so that people are able to get what American rates, because their living costs are so low, right? Elsewhere, they're able to charge less for the work than it is for someone, say, New York, who needs $200 a page to get a page done one day, where somebody for $200 can do you 4 pages elsewhere.
And all because of computers and everything like that.
Yeah.
But Americans, you're also competing with Indian artists and Malaysian artists and Filipino artists. Look at Marvel. They're all outsourcing their art to third world countries, you know.
Yeah.
And like we got American guys that are like, I'm cutting my rates to nothing, you know. But I turned them down because I feel bad, and I can't, you know, I can't afford, you know, Marvel rates for a lot of these guys. Not yet.
Yeah.
But
also, you're going to find that a lot of people from Marvel and DC are running to the smaller, to the smaller publishers, because the fact is that Marvel isn't going to be paying that rate either anymore soon.
Oscar, my colorist, used to color for Marvel.
Yeah.
I think he's still with color for Marvel, but he says like that they drag their feet paying.
Exactly.
You know,
so
like
people
Oscar complains that I pay right, like I'll give him a 7-page story, and he'll be like, pay me at the end of 7 pages, but I'll pay right away at the end of each page because I don't want to do the accounting. Did I pay you for 4? So I made a habit of paying per page. So
right.
I'm like, sorry, Oscar, but I'm paying per page because it's just easy for me. And he's like, man, I want to be. You're paying me too fast. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, is that a good problem or a bad problem?
So Eric put a comment down earlier, and I don't know what that's about. But can you explain that, Eric? I'm not sure what this was about.
Chuck Dixon, he put up I think it was a Kickstarter, and it was I think he wrote a script, and then he tried with like still AI pages, and I didn't like it. I didn't back it. It bombed. I think he was trying something. He was on my channel. We spoke for 4 hours a couple weeks ago. I didn't even bring it up.
Yeah.
But I think it was just, all right, I want to try something. Like, I don't know if it was something he wanted to prove that nobody wants AI, because who doesn't want to work with Chuck Dixon? But
yeah,
I don't know.
I won't talk to anyone or have anyone on board who's pro AI images, right? For comics or
I just had a feud with somebody that I was friendly with over AI. I'm like, this person, I'm not going to mention names, but if you know me, you'll know who I'm talking about. Because I was working hard last night. I wrote a 55,000 page novel last night using AI. And I said, well, you didn't write it. And he goes, well, you don't understand AI. I said, I don't care what I understand. It's impossible to write a 55,000 page novel in one night. So the AI did the work. I said, what you wrote in prompts. I said, you didn't even proofread it, because you can't proofread a 55,000 page AI generated novel in the time that it took. I said, and then I said, what's the name of the book? He wouldn't tell me.
Yeah.
I said, you're not telling me the name of the novel because you're not proud of it. You know you're doing something shady. And I said, you're going to put it on Amazon under a fake name, and then over the course of the globe, because everybody on the globe has access to Amazon, some people are going to be fooled into buying it. They're going to spam it with bad reviews. I said, but by that time, you're going to use another fake name on another AI generated, and you're just throwing AI nets and hoping to catch foolish fish. I said, you're using fake names because you're not proud of it, and you won't tell me the name of a novel because you know you're doing something wrong. And then he tweets, some guy accused. I said, you're lying to people, and you're cosplaying as a Christian. So then he goes on, this is the first. I've been accused of not being a Christian because I use AI. And then I said, see, you're lying again. I'm calling you not a Christian because you're a liar. You know you're a fraud. You know you're lying. You know you're doing something shady. Otherwise, you'd put your name on it. He goes, Mark Twain had a pseudonym. Yeah, because he was writing anti-religious stuff at a time that would actually get him in trouble. I said, J.K. Rowling used a fake name because she was trying to see if a book that wasn't Harry Potter would actually sell if nobody knew that.
I have that book.
Tom Guythwite
Yeah.
or whatever. She wanted to see if that book would sell on its own merits. I said,
Yeah.
well, she was actually hindering herself by using a pseudonym. I said, you're not persecuted. You're trying to catch unwary fish with the nets, whatever. So that's it. So now I'm a bad person.
Well, it's like Richard Bachman, right? When he was writing, I have the Bachman stories. I read that when I was like 15 or 16, maybe 18. I think that's when it came out. But The Long Walk is now a movie. So he wrote that under a pseudonym because it was different to who he was, and writing all this, The Running Man as well as part of that, the fantasy stories rather than the horror stories, right? Slice of life horror stories that he wrote. It's still him writing it. And I think this is the difference between AI and these idiots who call themselves writers under AI, is that it's not them writing. Not only that, is that AI is stealing from actual writers who have spent those years of their lives writing to formulate those stories. And now somebody else is putting it out as their own under a pseudonym. I was trying to find, this is an AI group, anti AI group on Facebook that I recommend guys joining, because that's where they expose a lot of stuff about this, and actual writers and artists actually talking about their art being stolen or their stories being stolen. It's the Artists Against Generative AI. So there's been a whole lot of theft going off of actual writers and their work, and then people selling that and putting it on Amazon as their work, and just changing the names and stuff of the books and so on. And sometimes not even going that far, just basically just changing the name of the author and faking all that. The other thing is that people are repainting AI art and selling for thousands of dollars, hundreds of dollars as their original work.
Convention for doing that.
Yeah.
Wizards of the Coast is making no bones about them using AI art for their Dungeons & Dragons products.
Yeah. So why would you want to support that? Like, if why would I want
to? I got second edition. I bought them 20 years ago. I'm happy with them. And I still have 18 long boxes of comics I haven't read yet. So I don't need to buy new comics.
I'm in the same vein. It's like there's so many boxes around everywhere that I haven't even got to yet. I've just started buying manga that I even read
Anybody
yet.
who's salivating at the idea, like Richard C. Meyer, I'm gonna do. Go ahead, Richard. Nobody's buying your books anyway. Jawbreaker sucks. AI generate the next book. Go ahead, be my guest.
Yeah. I think they don't realize that there's so much. Any artist who supports AI is not an artist, as far as I'm concerned. And I mean AI images, right? Any writer who supports AI writing is a writer.
I know technology. I'm in the construction field. When I first started in the, as an electrician, there was a big blowback about using battery-powered tools.
Yeah,
because we as the electricians, we control the electricity, and that was a lot of power on a job site. So we would have to bring in these diesel generators. There would have to be an electrician there at all times to maintain the gen. And it was a nice job. You just sitting there reading a book, standing next to the generator, putting gas in the generator, and then if circuits blew, you went and reset the circuits. If the cord burnt up, we literally made another cord, put the plug on it, and gave it to. So we controlled that. Now battery powered tools took that job away from us.
Right.
So we fought it and lost, but you can't fight progress, and now we as electricians use battery. There's guys who's just like, this is a corded tool. They'll throw it back in the box and go for the back because it's a pain in the neck to find an outlet, use the cord. Now you got to put the cord up in the air so nobody trips over it. You spend 20 minutes and all you have to do is drill one thing and put the tool back, so they'll get it. I understand technology changes things. Yeah. But I do want that battery powered tool. It makes my job easier.
Yeah, I have it.
But I don't want that tool to write up art for me.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? I want, the thing about art, and I'm going to get metaphysical, is it's a soul. It's inspiration. Inspiration.
Exactly.
inspiration is when God breathed life, or Zeus.
Yeah.
We want that. There's this spark of intelligence and beauty and everything like that. I don't want just a computer an algorithm to predict what a story should be, and now you're just going to get, A to B to C to D to D to D to D. Oh, this is where we add in a twist. Isn't society stupid enough?
I mean, the tool is supposed to work for us, not us work for the tool, right?
I'm going to repeat something I saw on Twitter. Like, we wanted artificial intelligence to do all the tests so we could create the art. Like, exactly. I want a robot to come and do my laundry and clean and my house and maintain my roof, and work on my car so I could make comic books. But so now it's making the comic books, and I still got to fix my car. I still got to mow my own.
Still got to wash my dishes,
right,
and fold my clothes,
right. I don't know if I think a lot of people are going to get tricked into buying AI stuff. Like, this author's like, you already bought my AI novels. I'm like, no, I didn't.
Yeah,
I haven't bought any novels written after 1999.
Yeah.
So I didn't buy any of your stupid AI generated novels. Don't go say and making that claim, And but if you are proud of this book, why are you so squirrely about it? Yeah. Tell me the name of the book. Tell me the name of the book and I'll read it. I'll buy it and read it. No. I said you won't do it because you're doing something wrong. I'll tell you the name of I'll tell you everything about my comic book except read the comic book, buy the comic book, but I wrote it, Oscar drew it, Renzo drew it, Oscar colored it, Bill lettered it, I'll tell you everything about it. Now, no AI is used for anything, and I'm proud of it. I put my name on it, I don't know.
There was this thing with, let me just show you this. You've probably already seen it, but let me get this here. Set it. So when I saw this, and also Marvel, I thought they were too late, right? So when Jim Lee says DC will not support AI generated storytelling or art, he's about 2 years too late.
Yeah,
and so is Marvel, because it's already out there. And the problem was that these guys didn't put that into law straight away. So, I've been right from the start. I've just said, like, we won't work with anybody who does AI art. Because why would I? I'm an artist. I'm a multi-disciplinary artist. I do sculptures. I do ceramics. I do paintings. I haven't done paintings for a while. But, I coloring, lettering, and what have you. Why would I give a cent to anyone who's doing AI art? But not only that, why do they take so long? These are the guys at the top of the echelon, right? The two big companies in comic books in the world. Why do they take 2 years? Were they trying to see, how, squirrely about it so they could see, well, how much can we get away with, or because corporations always think like that, right? What can we get away with without having to pay and save money, right? So why do they take 2 years to start saying, hey, we won't do AI?
They probably got accused of something and they're clearing the air. I don't know. I know Marvel got accused of having AI generated covers.
Oh, DC got it as well.
Oh, the DC did. I don't, like I said, I think it was last year. DC don't mind these days.
Yeah, neither. But I get the things coming across my Facebook because I'm in the comic groups.
Right.
But it was just like, why did you guys wait 2 years when the waters have been muddied so much that now you want to stand up and say, hey, notice us, we won't be doing AI. We're going to take a stand. It's like, you should have been there right at the start saying, no, we work with writers and we work with the real artists, and we've done it for about 80 years of our lives. So why would we suddenly not work with them, the very people who have given us money and who have actually helped us become a billion-dollar, multi-billion-dollar company now?
Yeah, I don't know. Marvel and DC is making so many bad mistakes. Like, I could see them embracing AI art, in the future. I mean, they hire the worst writers. To me, that I don't even care about their art because their writing is so bad. Like,
Yeah, I've stopped buying Marvel and DC comics. Actually, I rather just go and buy. I actually buy I actually buy thrift store comics now. When I
Yeah.
go out, when I find it, old. Like the other day, I bought a hardcover X library book of the heroes. Like I've always wanted it, but it was there for what, $6, like the full on the whole collector series. But it's the X library books. I'd rather have a X library books in tatters than buy a brand new one from Marvel or DC for the same
Yeah,
price.
I've been buying back issues. Like today, I just read Hulk.
All right,
So
what issue is that?
this is 148.
Okay.
I'm getting a kick out of them. There's
Yeah,
I'm catching up on Hulk comics that I missed, Iron Man comics that I missed. Like I said, I got 18 long boxes of comics that I haven't read yet. I'm good. I'm good. If I'm buying your comics now, it's because it looks. I'm buying a lot of indie comics.
yeah.
What do I got?
I've been supporting that as well. I think this is a great time to actually. That's why I'm putting up the whole anti-AI thing, right?
I never read some Mr. Miracle, Mr. Monster rather, some old Indiana Jones comics. I thought I had some indie stuff on top. Yeah, Chuck Dixon just got me Horseman. I got Evangeline, a Chuck Dixon comic I never read, but I'm good. I don't need Marvel or DC right now. I'm good. I miss it. It's not good.
Did Chuck Dixon write Evangeline?
Yeah,
Was he at Image?
that was Comico. That was Comico. That was one of his first original properties. But Comico, they unfortunately got involved with people they shouldn't have got involved with, and licenses got sold underneath people. So Chuck Dixon's I think he lost the rights to it because it got taken out from under him. I don't know. I think he might be getting it back. That was one of his first projects that they were thinking about a movie, and then he found out I don't own this anymore. What happened? Because the shady people that owned Comico.
All right, so we're coming up to we just passed 2.5 hours.
Yeah, I got to my stomach is grumbling.
Thank you for hanging out with us, John.
It's a lot of fun, buddy. Anytime you want to talk again, I enjoyed this.
Awesome.
We talked about everything: communism, politics, a little bit of religion.
Comics.
Yeah, comics. This
So
is what
what
I like talking with people. I like one-on-one conversations with people. I freeze up when I'm on a panel show. I don't want to step on other people, but you also want to get your voice in. I hate it. It's so stressful. I like one-on-one.
All right, so I'm going to give you what we call the words of wisdom, right? This is like the first, the last 3 to 5 minutes of tying up what you think, the listener would like to hear or what you have to impart. As far as you think is important. So I'll leave you a couple of minutes to think about that. And then I'll give you center stage to do that. And then we'll come back and say goodbye. And thank you, everybody that was hanging out with us today. Really appreciate it. So what do you reckon? You ready to go or you need a couple of minutes?
Well, what do you want? Like my advice on making comics or life of Joe?
Whatever.
Since it's all loaded up and ready to go, if you're interested in making comics, it's a lot of fun. I made a couple of videos called Crowdfunding 101, and it's my limited experience making my first comic. Edward Lilly was the guest on that, but it's a small world. Don't do what I do. I fought with too many people. Don't fight with anybody. Appreciate your fan base, and if you're talented enough that you could do everything yourself, God bless you. But if you work with other people, be as precise as possible. Make sure you explain what you want drawn. Make sure you explain the colors that you want, and pay without fighting. If the guy drew you 3 pages, pay him for those 3 pages right away, and don't pay people in advance until you establish a relationship, until you trust them, because so many people got scammed by an artist. Pay me for 5 pages and I'll see you next month, and then they never see that money. That's really all I got to say. And it's hard work, but it's fun. What do you want me to say? That's it. That's my words of wisdom.
Thank you for hanging out with us today. I really appreciate it. This is a good chat. And wherever you are, be well. Thank you, John.
Thank
And
you.
we'll get you on the flip side. All right,
Bye,
bye for now. Ka kite ano. Be well, everyone.
Nope, 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 nope. Can't stay here anymore. I gotta get back. I think this was the spot. Oh Lord, I beseech thee, please return me to my old life. I swear I'll do anything. Like, literally anything. And I won't bother you again, so pretty please bring me back to life.